Good morning, honorable members, and those under the sound of my voice. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endureth forever. Our God is faithful and worthy of all of our praise. Today, in our Moments of Impact devotional segment, our topic is forgiveness. All of us have had someone do something wrong to us in our lifetime, whether it was a lie that someone said about us, or something that they should not have done that caused some hurt or pain in our lives. Today I want to talk about forgiveness. Forgiving someone for what they have done to you is not always the easiest thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. To forgive means to excuse, it means to pardon, to release, and to let go. The scriptures command us to forgive because we are recipients of God's forgiveness. Lamentations chapter 3 verses 22 and 23 says, "It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." We just came out of a wonderful Easter season where we celebrated the death, burial, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, of which the overarching message is mercy and forgiveness. Our loving God sent his son Jesus into the world to be the propitiation for our sins when we didn't deserve it. Therefore, today, I stop by for a few moments to admonish all of us today, according to Colossians chapter 3, verse 13, to bear with each other and forgive one another if any one of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 31 and 32 says, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate one to another, forgiving one another just as Christ in God forgave you." While we admonish to forgive according to the scriptures, there's always this question: Lord, how many times should we forgive? Well, in Matthew chapter 18, then came Peter to him and said, "Lord, how often shall I forgive my brother who sinned against me?" Jesus said, "Till 7 times. Jesus said unto him, "I say not unto thee, until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. People, this does not mean on the 491st time you don't have to forgive. The message Jesus was trying to convey here was that our heart's posture must always be one of forgiveness. Sadly, many people struggle with forgiveness and would rather go to their graves before they forgive someone who have wronged them. In conclusion, I want to leave you with this thought today. God's forgiveness of you is predicated on your forgiveness of others. Matthew chapter 6, verse 14 and 15 says, "For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive them their trespasses, neither will your heavenly Father forgive you your trespasses." No one in this world is worth your heavenly Father withholding forgiveness from you. Selah. Think and act on these things. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your mercies and compassion you bestow upon us every day. We thank you for not consuming us and leaving us by the wayside when we sinned against you. Father, we thank you for your death, your burial, the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thank you, Father, for giving us the opportunity to confess our sins and you being faithful and just to forgive us from all unrighteousness. Help us, O God, to forgive those who have wronged us, those who have lied on us, stole from us, said all manner of evil against us, those who have mistreated us. Just like Esau forgave Jacob, Lord, give us a forgiving heart towards our spouse, our children, our colleagues, our family members, and our associates. We are constantly in need of forgiveness, so Lord, help us to forgive others. Now, Father, we ask that you would envelop this place with your tangible presence. Holy Spirit, we ask that you would take up residency and be glorified in everything that will be said and done in this house today. We pray that you would grant each of these honorable members wisdom from on high as they seek to steer our country into greener pastures. O Lord, may you continue to bless, protect, prosper our great nation, and keep us, O Lord, in the center of your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let us repeat the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. As we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Davis, Chester Cooper, Fred Mitchell, Glennis Anna Martin, Obadiah Wilscombe, Alfred Sears, Dr. Michael Darwell, Clay Sweeting, Keith Bell, Wayne Monroe, Vaughn Miller, Jobeth Colby Davis, Ginger Moxie, Mario Boleg, Jomo Campbell, Basil McIntosh, Miles LaRota, Pia Glover Rowe, Lisa Ramming, Zane Lightbourne, Dr. Hubert Minnis, Jamal Strawn, John Pinder, Marcus Rowe, Leon Lundy, Kirk Cornish, Wade Watson, Leonardo Lightbourne, Leslie Miller Bryce, Leroy Major, Sylvanius Petty, Michael Bonnaby, Michael Pintard, James Kwesi Thompson, Aram Lewis, Shannon Dawn Cartwright, Adrian Gibson, Adrian White.
Good morning, honorable members. Before we begin this morning, I would like to take this time out to congratulate the honorable member for Garden Hills, the organizers, and Team Bahamas on a very dynamic Carifta Games. And we send congratulations from this place to Team Bahamas for a wonderful job. Now let's get on with the people's business. Introduction and swearing in of new members, laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cadan, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table a copy of the Public Debt Management, Bahamas Registered Stock number 1, 2024, and 2025, Directions 2023.
Thank you, honorable member. Order the document be brought up. Order that the document to lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of this House a copy of the Value-Added Tax Supply of Real Property General Rules 2023.
Thank you, honorable member. Order that the document be brought up. Order the document lie on the table. Further laying of documents. The chair recognizes the honorable member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House the following: the Price Control General Amendment Number 2 Regulations 2023.
Thank you, honorable member. Order that the document be brought up. Order the document to lie on the table. Further laying of documents. Continue, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following: the Price Control General Amendment Number 3 Regulations 2023.
Order that the document be brought up. Order the document do lie on the table. For the laying of documents,
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following: the public holidays, Easter Monday 2023, opening of shops, notice 2023.
thank you, honorable member. Order the document be brought up. Order the document do lie on the table. For the laying of documents, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Centerville. Good morning.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following: the Supreme Court Civil Procedure Rule 2022, notice 2023.
Thank you, honorable member. Order the document be brought up. Mr. Sullivan. Order the document to lie on the table. For the laying of documents,
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following: the Supreme Court Civil Procedure Amendment Rules 2023.
thank you, honorable member. Order the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. For the laying of documents, thank you, honorable member. Statement and communication by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Carmichael.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, honorable members, Bahamians everywhere. Madam Speaker, I rise once again to give a communication in respect to immigration. And as I do so, Madam Speaker, I wish to begin, as always, by thanking my Almighty God for allowing me the opportunity to stand in this honorable House once again and to provide the House and the Bahamian people with an update of this government's unwavering efforts to protect our borders from unlawful entrance. Madam Speaker, since coming into office in September 2021, we have witnessed an unprecedented sequence of global events which have resulted in significant deterioration in the economy and economic outlook of the republics of Haiti and Cuba. In the Republic of Haiti, global inflationary pressures are but one of the many issues facing that country. Given the conditions in Haiti and Cuba, we have seen historically high levels of Cubans and Haitians seeking to unlawfully enter the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, whilst the government led by the Honorable Prime Minister continues to encourage a regional and international approach to address the issues facing both Cuba and Haiti, the position of this government remains unwavering that all persons seeking to enter the Bahamas must do so using legal avenues and processes. Any person seeking to enter or remain in the Bahamas unlawfully will be intercepted and sent back to their home countries. Madam Speaker, whilst we could not predict all of the challenges of the past year upon coming into office, we accepted that more had to be done to protect our borders. This is why, Madam Speaker, last year we established a temporary holding facility in Inagua with the capacity to hold over 800 persons to reduce the time required for irregular migrants intercepted in the southern Bahamas to be repatriated. This is why also, Madam Speaker, this administration immediately recruited and commissioned the largest immigration squad in the history of the department, increasing the total number of immigration officers by over 30%. Today, these additional immigration officers play a key role in carrying out the government's ambitious mandate for the department. I might add, Madam Speaker, that the Cabinet has approved the recruitment of an additional 100 immigration officers in the upcoming months. Madam Speaker, earlier this year, I advised the public of special operations in the country as part of the Operation Restore component of the government's legal framework for immigration. There are a number of operations which commenced in Abaco to combat illegal migration, and this is ongoing, Madam Speaker. It was conducted, or it is being conducted, with the assistance of several teams from the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, and of course the Bahamas Immigration Department. The targeted areas include Marsh Harbor, Hope Town, Guana Key, Treasure Key, Green Turtle Key, Ferry Dock, Winding Bay, the Gully, and of course the farm. During the course of this special operation in Abaco, several trends, Madam Speaker, have been noticed which I wish to share with this House and members of the public. Madam Speaker, investigations in Abaco has shown that a significant number of persons are working outside the scope of their permits. The employers are in New Providence or some other island, and the permit holders are working outside New Providence independent of their employer. Additionally, Madam Speaker, they are also working outside the scope of the grant in that many were classified as handymen or farm laborers were found engaged in other classified fields of employment of skilled labor. Madam Speaker, from January 2023 to the 31st of March 2023, some 81 persons were found in Abaco using work permits issued for employers in New Providence alone. These persons were removed from Abaco, and in each case, the permit is liable to revocation. To date, 65 of the 81 persons have been charged and convicted before the magistrates' courts. Madam Speaker, another significant challenge we have found is Bahamian employers are failing to renew permits on a timely basis. This is a vexing issue for the department, but let me say from the outset, Madam Speaker, that whilst I understand that persons can face delays obtaining the accompanying documents to have a permit renewed, if a person is here without a valid work permit and without having a renewal application before the Department of Immigration, they will be arrested and deported. Madam Speaker, over the past 3 months, Operation Restore has resulted in over $90,000 being collected in back fees for processing and document fees from Bahamian employers of various persons being taken into custody. Madam Speaker, immigration fees must be paid. Pay immigration its fees. Work permits are obtained by employers, and it is the employer's responsibility to pay the government its fees. Any employer found owing immigration will be required to pay all fees owing and could face prosecution. Madam Speaker, Operation Restore remains ongoing, and we intend to not decrease our efforts in all the islands, including Abaco. It is also important to note, Madam Speaker, that the Department of Immigration is carrying out its work without fear or favor. Red, yellow, black, or white. Haitians, Jamaicans, Cubans, Mexicans, Canadians, all have been investigated, and where violations have been found, they have been charged, convicted, deported, and placed on the department's restricted list. Madam Speaker, the Abaco Special Operation is one aspect of our ongoing efforts all over this country as part of the government's national immigration strategy, which comprise 3 broad pillars. First, Operation Restore, which is the enforcement of our immigration laws within our borders. Secondly, the protection of our territorial waters, and I wish to once again commend the Minister of National Security and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force for the awesome task that they're doing out there. And thirdly, Madam Speaker, our third pillar is regional and international cooperation led by our Honorable Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, in keeping with our promise to the Bahamian people, we have been relentless and unwavering in repatriating undocumented migrants and those who breach our immigration laws. Madam Speaker, during the month of March 2023, a total of 651 persons were repatriated from the Bahamas. This number included 450 Haitian nationals, 173 Cuban nationals, 8 Jamaican nationals, and 20 other persons of various nationalities. Madam Speaker, for the period commencing the 1st of January 2023 to the 31st of March 2023, 1,734 persons have been repatriated from the Bahamas. 590 persons were charged with various immigration offenses and put before the magistrate's court. 461 persons have been convicted, and some $240,600 in fines have been imposed by the court for immigration offenses. Madam Speaker, on the 6th of April 2023, There were 153 persons in the detention center awaiting repatriation. These persons include persons from China, Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica, and a number of other nationalities. Madam Speaker, I want to personally thank my team at the Department of Immigration for their hard work on behalf of the Bahamian people. Whilst we continue our efforts to detect and remove persons who have no legal right to be in the Bahamas, operations to intercept those who seek to enter our waters continue. On Tuesday, the 4th of April of this year, 219 Haitian nationals, comprising 157 males, 53 females, and 9 minor children, were apprehended from a 50-foot wooden vessel near Anguilla Key by the United States Coast Guard. They have since been transported, Madam Speaker, to the detention center. Additionally, this past Saturday, the 8th of April 2023, an additional 22 Haitian nationals were apprehended by immigration officers, police officers, defense force officers for illegal landing in the Exumas. Investigations are ongoing into that matter as well, Madam Speaker. These recent interceptions, Madam Speaker, bring the current population at the detention center and the department's safe house to some 394 persons. The unlawful entrants will be processed and repatriated as soon as formalities are completed, which we anticipate will be later on this week. Notably, Madam Speaker, these repatriations will result in an overall repatriation for 2023 so far of some 2,128 persons. This means that we are on a trajectory to significantly exceed last year's numbers. Madam Speaker, I wish to assure this House, honorable members, and the public that your Immigration Department, in collaboration with its local and international partners, is fulfilling its mandate given by the government and the people. By repatriation alone, Madam Speaker, for the first 4 months of 2023, the Immigration Department has repatriated almost half of the total number of persons repatriated in 2022. And this is just the first 4 months, Madam Speaker. Additionally, Madam Speaker, as Minister of Labor and Immigration, the Director of Immigration has been given a very clear directive to collect all outstanding back and unpaid fees owing to the department, to tighten controls and improve the department's overall efficiency as one of the government's largest revenue earner. While the figures for the fiscal year 2022-2023 will be disclosed in the budget exercise, I am pleased to note that under the current able leadership of Director Katura Ferguson, the Department of Immigration has surpassed the $100 million mark revenue between January 1st, 2022 and December 2022. In this regard, Madam Speaker, the Ministry and the Department of Immigration has met with the Honorable Minister of Finance, the Honorable Prime Minister, and his team in relation to much needed resources for the department. And the Honorable Prime Minister gives us his assurance, and I thank him accordingly, that we will get those resources. Madam Speaker, several months ago, I issued in this place a warning to employers and the general public about the need to act within the law. Specifically, I warned persons that each work permit is subject to conditions including that the employee work for the employer named on that permit. Let me repeat. A person on a permit is only allowed to work for the employer named on that permit and only allowed to work within the confines of the grant. Failure to do so is an offense. Madam Speaker, over the past few weeks, the department began a special operation following numerous complaints and information received from members of the public at large of construction workers of foreign nationality working on a construction site in a high-end gated community in the Eastern New Providence. Following the conclusion of the investigation, Madam Speaker, an operation was launched which revealed that foreign construction workers at that site outnumbered the Bahamian construction workers 3-1. Madam Speaker, in one swoop, 56 foreign nationals were taken into custody, leaving a mere 20 Bahamian workers on that site. The findings of the investigations revealed all of the persons had been issued work permits. Secondly, all of the persons were working outside the scope and terms of their work permit. Thirdly, a large number of persons were unlawfully paying dramatically lower work permit fees by giving incorrect job descriptions such as farm laborers, which attract a fee of $500, when they were highly skilled construction professionals, which attracted a fee of $4,000 to $6,000. Several persons owed renewal and processing fees for permits. Others were pending processing fee payments for the renewal of the permits. Persons were classified as farm laborers and handymen when they were highly skilled construction workers. Madam Speaker, investigations into this matter are ongoing. However, I believe it is important to specifically warn contractors and other businesses who employ persons on work permits, get your house in order. The law is clear on what is required. If you are unsure, you can call or visit the Department of Immigration. The immigration laws must and will be enforced. The laws will be enforced equally and throughout the Bahamas, island to island, east to west, in front of the gate, in the back of the gate, one country, one law for everyone. The immigration will target the owner, the occupier, the hirer, the employer, the worker. Be warned. Madam Speaker, let me just say, in respect to those persons, the decision has been made that when those permits for those persons found working in that gated community outside the scope of their permit, that when it comes up for renewal, each of those permits will be reclassified from farm laborers and handymen to the fields in which they properly belong. And we anticipate that that will be done across the board as we continue to go on these sites. Madam Speaker, I note that the case of Douglas Ngumi has reached its conclusion, having been determined by the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and now the Privy Council, which is our final court of appellate jurisdiction. Madam Speaker, Douglas Ngumi, a Kenyan citizen, was arrested by Bahamian immigration officials. He had no approval to be in this country, to remain in this country. The courts found, however, that his detention did not meet the legal standard, and consequently, he was entitled to damages, which is monetary compensation. The Supreme Court assessed those damages at $650,000 plus interest. Ngumi's attorneys appealed to the Court of Appeal, challenging the overall assessment. His attorney appealed to the Court of Appeal, challenging the overall assessment of general damages, which is monetary compensation, as inordinately low, and asserting that the global award should have been in excess of $11 million. The Court of Appeal firmly rejected this claim, but increased the award to $750,000 plus additional interest. The Court of Appeal did not order the government to pay Ngumi's cost for the appeal, which is significant. Ngumi's attorney then appealed to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, asserting that the $750,000 figure was manifestly low and that the appellant should be compensated to the tune of $11 million, in addition to the government paying the legal costs, which could have amounted to millions of dollars given the length of the case. Ngumi and his attorney was not successful on almost every ground before the Privy Council. The claim for compensation of $11 million was firmly rejected by the Privy Council. The Privy Council confirmed the Court of Appeal's decision, save a $50,000 increase in the award. However, Ngumi was not awarded costs in the Privy Council. And I'm going to table the judgment, Madam Speaker, as soon as I'm completed. I wish to publicly thank the Honorable Attorney General Ryan Pinder and the Honorable Member for Centerville, Minister Jomo Campbell, and their team at the Office of the Attorney General in defending the government in this case.
Every time evil rears its head, cut it off.
Madam Speaker, it is important for me to say, Madam Speaker, it is important for me to say, and for the Bahamian people to know, that my issues and our issues with the case and arguments are made independent from the appellant, Mr. Ngumi, as we are governed by precedent which binds future cases. Having regard to the arguments put forward by the attorneys for Mr. Ngumi versus the pronouncement of the courts, I am satisfied that this ruling and the changes which will come which may be enacted as a result of the ruling, will put us in a much stronger position in expeditiously deporting persons who have no legal basis to remain in this country. Whilst the case highlighted the need for legislative clarification, it reinforced our ability to determine the process by which persons are repatriated under the Immigration Act. The Department has already begun reviewing the sections which require legislative clarification and work with the Office of the Attorney General to determine the next steps. Ultimately, Madam Speaker, the Bahamas is a country of laws, and persons who are not citizens of the Bahamas do not have an inalienable and absolute right to remain here. We are a small country with limited resources. We cannot accept unlimited number of migrants, no matter how the attorneys for such migrants may argue their cases. The Bahamas maintains an organized system to allow for the unlawful entry and orderly processing of applications for lawful entry into the Bahamas. This is the only process, Madam Speaker, by which persons should enter this country. Our survival as a country in our current form depends on the government maintaining control of the processes by which persons enter and remain in this country. As a government, we intend to be unwavering and unapologetic in defending our sovereign integrity for future generations to come. In closing, Madam Speaker, I thank my Permanent Secretary, Ms. Cecilia Strawn, and my fine team at the Ministry of Labor and Immigration. On behalf of the Bahamian people and this government, I extend my deepest appreciation to the Director of Immigration, our police officers, our Defense Force officers, and our international partners for all their work they do in protecting our borders and enforcing our immigration laws and policies. I ask all Bahamian people to continue to pray God's protection and covering over each and every one of them as they fulfill their mandate. Madam Speaker, may God continue to bless, preserve, and keep this great Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Order that the communication be brought up.
Thank you.
Order that the document be on the table. Further communications by ministers? The chair recognizes the honourable member for Golden Gates.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to give an account to this Honourable House and to the Bahamian people on the progress of the Ministry of Public Service that we are making on our reform agenda. Last week, Thursday, I announced to the nation that the government will be conducting a public service-wide promotional exercise for the first time since 2014. Hundreds of public servants will be promoted, Madam Speaker. This promotional exercise was needed for the many public servants who are already performing duties above and beyond what their titles obligated them to do. Yet, they stepped up, they performed, and they felt duty-bound to ensure that the work of the government was done. These public servants should be applauded. Madam Speaker, I hear many times public servants say, being a public servant is a thankless job. When things are going well, you don't always get the recognition you deserve, but when things go wrong, you get all the blame. I spent some time in the public service during my career, and I personally know how frustrating it can be when you're doing your best within a system that doesn't always recognize your efforts. This is the first public service-wide exercise since the last PLP administration, Madam Speaker. And I don't believe that it's a coincidence. Just as we saw when it came to increasing the minimum wage, there's a clear trend being established. When a PLP government is in, we take care of the Bahamian people and we take care of public servants. Madam Speaker, it's been 9 long years that these public servants have waited patiently for the freeze on service-wide promotions to end. Well, Madam Speaker, that freeze is now thawed out in this new day. And this wait, while it has been so long, a majority of the public servants covered under this exercise will not receive 1, but 2 promotions. Some have waited for over a decade, Madam Speaker. I want to remind everyone that the workers being promoted have worked beyond the scope of their titles for many years, and now it's time for their titles to match their responsibilities. I would like to address the talk out there that in the public arena that people are saying 2 promotions aren't enough. They're saying there should be 3 or more. And I know we've done our best in terms of our existing financial limitations. And while I understand that certain leaders of certain groups may feel the need to say something just to have their voices heard, Madam Speaker, I guess we call that grandstanding, I sometimes question the general nature and the genuine nature of their commentary. I suspect that if we were doing 3 promotions, they would say, why you ain't doing 4? If we were doing 10 promotions, they'd say, why you ain't doing 11? So, Madam Speaker, at a certain point, seems like people just have stuff to say to be relevant.
We can forgive them.
We will not be distracted. We will not be deterred. We have real work to get done, and we don't have time to play one-up games with anyone, Madam Speaker. While public service promotions are often halted because of the government, Marco City, I am referring to you, man.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marco City.
There is a clear tradition in the Parliament that if you're giving communications on what is question and answer day, that the members ought to get up and deliver a communication without getting into controversial matters, or we are duty bound to respond. Absolutely. So, Madam Speaker, I would ask that we obey the rules so that we are able to get on with the business of the House. So no problem. So, Madam Speaker, I'd be happy to litigate the matters that she has said that are controversial. Again.
No, but define. Provide the definition.
I'm not talking to you, so you should be quiet. You talk a little bit too much. Madam Speaker.
You don't know what controversial is? You shouldn't be in the House of Assembly. Yeah, well, that's my leader.
Members, there's a member on the seat.
Madam Speaker, the communication is addressing the work that the public service is doing. The member, in the course of doing so, is casting aspersion on this side. And so, in terms of willingness to address HR-related matters, 1, and in terms of tradition of how we have addressed those issues. So, Madam Speaker, if the member wishes to indicate the duties that she's carrying out and how effective she's doing it, that's fine. But then to cast aspersions in terms of we have not done similar things when in the chair is inappropriate, because we are willing to defend that. We are willing to get up and lay out the fact that when we came to office, Madam Speaker, when we came to office in 2017. There were thousands of persons who were hired, who, Madam Speaker, we sought to regularize those persons.
Thank you, honourable member. Yeah. The chair recognizes the honourable member for West Cram, Bahama and Bimini.
Madam Speaker, this side fully understands the rules as they apply and to be non-controversial. And the member who is addressing the communication at this point is not intending to pass the blame on anyone. She's simply given a communication.
Yes. Member for Golden Gate, she may continue.
While public servant promotions, Madam Speaker, are often
Members, we have young people in this place. Come on now.
Madam Speaker, we must lead by example. While public service promotions are often halted because of government financial constraints, we should be very careful and strategic with how these pauses on promotions are handled going forward. These pauses in promotions have created a hollow middle, Madam Speaker, where there's talent at the top, a lot of talent at the clerical levels, but not nearly enough middle-level managers. We cannot continue to ask clerical staff to do the work of mid-level officers without career advancement. It's simply unfair. To facilitate a smooth promotional process, we have done away with the formal assessment process. We do not believe that an over-reliance on standardized assessments provides a full picture of the performance of an employee. In this exercise, we assure that a full slate of hundreds have been met. All employees recommended for promotions have the requisite years of experience, the academic qualifications, and the ACR scores to do the job. To add an additional barrier for these already qualified employees is not practical when they have already met the qualifications in every way that matters, and their performance, Madam Speaker, speaks for itself. This administration is fortunate to have a leader who understands how important public servants are to successful governance. So I thank our Honorable Prime Minister for loaning his vision and his support to the work we do in the Ministry of the Public Service. We also have a minister who truly gets it, and I'm referring, of course, to the Member of Parliament for Fox Hill, who has given his unrestrained support to our ambitious reform agenda at the Ministry of Public Service. So we all work together from day one to craft a plan for public service reform that has its foundation in our blueprint for change. What's made similar reforms unsuccessful in the past is the fact that we often lack political will to see major changes through to the end. Reforming a government HR, policy, and processes does not necessarily dominate headlines, but it's critical to effective governance, Madam Speaker. While government resources typically are focused on major policy areas like national security, education, public works, health, the people are the ones who drive the results and deserve to be recognized. It's our people, our human resources, Madam Speaker, who must be effectively deployed, managed, and rewarded. From day one, we've focused on strategic human resource development to create a more effective and efficient public service. When public servants are happy and motivated, it is the Bahamian people who benefit from faster, public-oriented services. This is why our first step was to address the payment and promotions backlogs that weaken employee morale and motivation. Whether we're talking about the public or private sector, no one wants to work for an organization that does not acknowledge their efforts and compensate them in a timely fashion. Yes. Madam Speaker, the book of Romans says, "Now to the one who works, his wages are not counted as a gift, but as his due." Slow-moving bureaucracies and outdated systems are not sufficient excuse to delay paying people what they have already earned. Not when they have careers that they have dedicated their all to and mouths to feed at home. So we took action where we could immediately make a difference, knowing that in many cases, higher compensation was not solely up to the government. Many public servants' compensation packages are dependent on negotiated agreements with the local trade unions. Unfortunately, for the past 4.5 years prior to this administration taking office, government-labor relations hit an all-time low. We knew we had a lot of work ahead of us, even with the Memorandum of Understanding we signed with local unions prior to elections. But, Madam Speaker, since taking office on September 2021, we have successfully negotiated 17 industrial agreements, securing higher wages, better health insurance, among other benefits for thousands of public servants. And there's still more we have to do. So we brought back annual increments to help public servant salaries better absorb inflation, and then we increased minimum wage to help those at the lowest end of the salary scale to make ends meet. These were just a few of the initial steps we took in our 10-point plan to reimagine the public service. Madam Speaker, I must applaud P.S. Thompson for her stellar leadership at the Ministry of Public Service, as well as all of the teams and units at the ministry who often burn the midnight oil and work weekends to take care of the affairs of 20,000 plus public servants. I let anyone considering working at public service know that you have to be a worker to keep up with us at that ministry, because we're moving full steam ahead. Madam Speaker, hands-on leadership gets results. It's simple as that. We set the tone and everything else follows, and I can assure all public servants that in me, you will always have a champion within the government and within the cabinet looking out for you and pushing for the necessary reforms to happen. There's no possibility of us losing focus, not when our teams are so locked in, and not when the Prime Minister and the rest of the cabinet recognize the value of our work and are fully on board. Within the ministry, we have a special task force whose sole purpose is to oversee the successful execution of our reform agenda. We're now reorganizing all HR personnel within government so that they now fall directly under the Ministry of the Public Service. Through centralization, we will achieve a uniformed approach to HR management throughout every ministry and every agency. As a part of this exercise, we will pull all public servants with HR credentials into these newly formed HR units to take full advantage of their HR talent throughout the government. Our 10-point plan called for a public service-wide workforce audit, which is nearing completion. Through this audit, we are getting a better idea of the resources and personnel needed to modernize the public service and equip it for success. But I want to be clear, Madam Speaker, we're not waiting until the audit is done and the report is completed to make the necessary changes. As soon as new data is available, we act accordingly. Madam Speaker, as a part of our reform efforts, we've looked at models in Gambia, Beijing, Barbados, and Canada, and we are identifying existing skill gaps, projected areas of need, and new policies that are required to achieve our objectives. We will work collaboratively along with HR professionals to develop a strategic HR development plan to strengthen existing onboarding, training, which will be a major focus, and upskilling opportunities to equip public servants with the future-proof skills they need to succeed. This will be achieved via internal opportunities through the Public Service Training Unit, as well as through partnerships with learning institutions such as the University of the Bahamas, who will be collaborating with our education and training programs. The Public Service Professional Engagement Program is an example of the direction we are headed to reshape government recruiting, onboarding, and training programs to equip entry-level staff with the skills they need to succeed in a modern public service environment. You can expect to see similar efforts roll out at every level of the public service, from our clerical staff straight up to the very top. No one is excluded from these efforts, and Madam Speaker, in fact, our Prime Minister himself is leading and overseeing performance evaluations for permanent secretaries. This is the kind of accountability and transparency we're bringing to the public service. There's much work to do, Madam Speaker, but one of the most important steps we've taken is the digitalization of our document management and human resource management system. We have already begun preparations to implement a digital document management system that will improve the speed of all document-related workflows. Paper-based, analog systems will be a thing of the past, as will the stacks of documents piled high to the roof at the ministry. As we embrace this change, we can expect a significant boost in efficiency, which will result in shorter wait times for documents to be processed and acted on. We will see a similar streamlining and automation of HR processes as the Human Resource Management Information System is brought on board, led by the Ministry of Finance in partnership with the Ministry of Public Service. Through digitalization, we will automate workflows to ensure that every procedure is followed and there is a very clear path that every process follows, along with a clear trail for improved accountability and transparency. The days of files going missing or process being delayed while a specific document is searched for will be a thing of the past. Amen. Madam Speaker, real change has arrived at the Ministry of Public Service. I encourage all public servants to embrace the progress. We cannot succeed as a government without large-scale buy-in from the public service. This administration will continue to invest in people, knowing that empowered public servants will drive our success as a government. I say thank you to all public servants across the length and breadth of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas for your hard work, for your dedication. May God bless each and every public servant, and may God bless our Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Order that the communication be brought up.
Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Barnabas.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Just on a point of clarity. Didn't want to interrupt the member, the good member for Golden Gates. The members opposite continue to be very selective with these issues surrounding the workers of this country and minimum wage and other issues.
Honourable member.
Madam Speaker, if I may, Madam Speaker.
Honourable member. Honourable member.
For 25
Honourable member.
25 years.
Honourable member.
Did not implement minimum wage. It was the Free National Movement that implemented minimum wage. And Madam Speaker, the side opposite continues to be selective. For 25 years, the PLP did not implement minimum wage.
Honourable member for St. Barnabas. Honourable member for St. Barnabas. Honourable member. Honourable member, if I have to stand. We are at communications. I will give you liberty to speak, but don't try to overpower me. No. I'm speaking now. I will allow you to speak, but don't try to overrun the chair. I have called for you at least 4 times, and you have not acknowledged this chair. That's disrespectful. I am still speaking, honourable member, and while I'm speaking, please allow me. Don't do that. The chair recognizes the honourable member for West Grand Bahamas.
Madam Speaker, we're at the moment of communication.
We are at communications,
and
I will allow. There cannot be 2 members on their feet. Cannot be 2 members. And when we are done, then you will have an opportunity to speak. But don't do that. Do not do that. Order that the communication be brought up. Has the communication been brought up? Order the communication to lie on the table. Further communication by ministers? The chair recognizes the honourable member for Garden Hills.
That's a lot of time.
That line is so old. Sales 5 terms, my brother. Get a life. Get a life, man. Get a life.
Speaking, is this attack females day?
I think that's what you.
There's a member on his feet.
Somebody was all of attack females already.
Bacon.
So attack females.
We know what to eat. Bacon.
And I thought Lent was over. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Garden Hills.
Madam Speaker, it gives me thanks to the Almighty God to stand here in this honourable house on behalf of the great people from the constituency of Garden Hills. But before I commence my communication, Madam Speaker, I would like to send condolences to the family of Rosalind Horton and all other constituents who would have lost loved ones in recent times. And may the soul of the dearly departed rest in peace. I would also like to wish happy birthday to those who are celebrating their birthdays in the Gardeners constituency this week. Madam Speaker, I'm a proud man today. I'm a proud as a minister, as a member of parliament, and most of all, a proud Bahamian. Our government, led by the Honorable Philip Davis Casey, has focused on disaster management, climate change, and building a resilient Bahamas from our first day in office. I celebrate with exuberance a major step toward that resilient future. One of our major threats to our country is natural disaster. And this issue is compounded by the need for additional trained and skilled manpower. Hence, 3 months ago, we launched the Bahamas National Youth Guard program. Yes. Madam Speaker, lifted from our blueprint for change, the National Youth Guard program is designed to teach young people the skills needed to assist this nation during disaster or an emergency. As Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, my passion is supporting, developing, and providing access to young people, and this program can attest to that. The Bahamas National Youth Guard program, affectionately called the NYG, is designed to teach young people the core values of citizenship, patriotism, and service. One of the more famous U.S. President John Kennedy once said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but rather ask what you can do for your country." Madam Speaker, 2 weeks ago, 64 of over 200 applicants completed the first phase of their training in the National Youth Guard program. These young people range from 10 different islands across the archipelago. As far as Grand Bahama from the north to Inagua in the south. They left their homes, went through tough training for 3 months, and to prepare themselves to respond to when our country is most in need. Some of whom are in the gallery today, and I invite them now to stand as we say. Seated. And we thank you for your commitment and service. Also accompanying them is Commander Sonia Miller of the Royal Bahamas Defense. Madam Speaker, these young people have learned skills such as carpentry, plumbing, electrical, and the occasional safety and health administration, OSHA, from the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. And Dr. Linda Davis, president of BTVI, is here. Psychological first aid training from the Bahamas Psychological Association, and risk assessment and damage assessment from the Disaster Reconstruction Authority. They acquired standards of training certification at the watchkeeping and sea safers, and a number of them received training from their Class B boat license by LJM Maritime Academy. The Royal Bahamas Police Force taught them how to swim, proper radio communication, and report writing. The Community Emergency Response Training, or CERT certification, along with the shelter management, were taught by NEMA and the National Emergency Management Agency. The skills our young people acquired not only allows them to serve the country, but also themselves and their families. During the training, one of these cadets lost his home to fire and now has some of the skills needed to help his family rebuild. Madam Speaker, on March 31st, history was made as we celebrated the graduation of these fine young people, the first cohort of the National Youth Guard program. It was a red letter day. Our Honorable Prime Minister served as the keynote speaker, and each of the 64 graduates received a number of certifications that I previously mentioned. We extend formal congratulations to Ramon Herrera Lightburn, hailing from all the way down southern Inagua, who captured the top award as the most outstanding youth guard. From Grand Bahama, Felicia Roberts received the most outstanding female guard award. And Tawano Holbert, hailing from Bimini by way of New Providence, received the most outstanding male guard award. Madam Speaker, we once again extend formal congratulations to each and every graduate today. For those who wishes to review the ceremony and photos of the full replay of the ceremony can be found on the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture Facebook page. Madam Speaker, as we transition into phase 2 of our 4-phase program, we take a moment to celebrate accomplishing something special. Our young nation builders will now begin their service by first engaging in 3 months internship with various disaster-related public and private agencies. They will all obtain on-job training and prospects for future long-term employment.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, following this component, the National Youth Guard will begin a reservist phase where they can be called to serve whenever needed. The final phase are regular training sessions to ensure the young people stay updated with the most relevant information. These young people are now positioned to make an impact in this nation by leading their communities from the mitigation to the recovery stage of any disaster. Madam Speaker, our communities are better prepared because of them.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, this program could not have happened without our partners. I want to take the time to thank my colleague, Minister of Grand Bahama, the Honorable Ginger Moxie, and her ministry for being such a great support to the program while we're in Grand Bahama. Thank you to the Royal Bahamas Police Force for hosting the cadets on your campus. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force for all the training and the meals you provided daily. The Disaster Reconstruction Authority and the Bahamas Psychological Association, thank you for the wealth of knowledge you give to the program. Madam Speaker, a very special thank to you is extended to the National Emergency Management Agency and all other sister agencies that made the NYG program possible, including the Ministry of Finance, the Central Purchasing Unit, the Public Treasury, the Rand Memorial Hospital, the Port Department, the Grand Bahama Yacht Club, and a host of others. You have been an integral part from the inception of the program. Madam Speaker, my ministry has enjoyed its partnership with the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute over many years with the multiple programs, and would like to thank them for partnering with us in this program as well. Through our partnership with this program, Madam Speaker, I am proud to announce, Madam Speaker, that members of the National Youth Guard are eligible for scholarships to continue their studies at the institution. Our other partner institution is the LJM Maritime Academy. The premier maritime institution in the country. On the heels of this new partnership, it gives me great pleasure to announce today, Madam Speaker, that LJM has offered scholarships to 4 of our National Youth Guards. We are proud to announce that Matthew Johnson and Michelin Darwell will continue training to obtain their Class B license, while Giselle and Ryan McIntosh will be engaged in a 4-month training to gain their rating, allowing them to work on any vessel worldwide. This is to be highly commended and celebrated, and we offer our gratitude to the LJM Maritime Academy. Finally, Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the staff of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, especially the Division of Youth, who are in the gallery today, for their hard-working dedication, led by Sandine and Neely, the youth officers, Brian, Kenneth. They continue to do excellent work in developing and supporting young people. A special thank you is extended to youth officer, Mr. Kenneth Fraser up front, who led the lead officer on this program. He spent countless hours designing, implementing, and facilitating this program. Thank you for your sacrifice and service. Madam Speaker, as I take my seat, I end by stating a quote from Jackson Brown Jr. Once said, "The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today." I am proud to state that we are building a resilient Bahamas and a brighter and more secure future. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order that the document be brought up. Order the document lie on the table. Further communications? Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Garden Hills.
Madam Speaker, although a small country by population and size, we are the jewel of the Caribbean and the envy of the world. Our dominance at the recently held Carifta Aquatics and Athletics Championships proves that we are a force to be reckoned with in the sporting world. This country has certainly marked the manner of our bearing. Our athletes, through dedication, commitment, and hard work, have united this country and given us all a new profound sense of pride. Madam Speaker, on April 4th, 2023, a 39-member team, along with the executives of the Bahamas Aquatics Federation, parents, and swim fans, boarded the Bahamas airplane and flew to Curacao. Madam Speaker, I was told that everyone knew when this focused and talented group of young and upcoming Olympians landed in Curacao, and when they arrived at the Aquatic Center. In fact, Madam Speaker, the entire Southern Caribbean now known as the Bahamian National Anthem. That's how many times it was played for our swimmers, who stood proudly on top of the medal podium, and it was gold, 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 and more gold. Madam Speaker, while our swimmers made a splash in the water, our 4-member Junkanoo group, led by my colleague, Minister of State of Education, the Honorable Zane Lightbourne, rocked the bleachers with melodic rhythms and beats from the cowbells and goatskin drums. I would like to thank my colleague for leading the delegation and the 39-member team at the Carifta Swimming Championships in Curacao. Madam Speaker, as the swimmers say, 5 feet. So sweet. This historic win, this historic win, which will be inked in the annals, has 2 new individual and character records attached. Team Bahamas produced the best ever performance at the Games, winning a total of 85 medals, 37 golds, 27 silver, and 21 bronze. The overall team accumulated 1,113 points, and this was the most ever scored at the Games. The nearest rivals were the Cayman Islands, who got second with 25 golds, 16 silvers, and 12 bronze, while Trinidad and Tobago rounded up the top 3 with 22 golds, 16 silvers, 16 bronze, for a total of 54 medals. Madam Speaker, I want you to remember this young lady's name, Celeste Gibson. She dominated the girls' 11 and 12 division, winning 7 gold medals. Celeste Gibson. 7 gold medals in the 100-meter butterfly, 200-meter freestyle, 50-meter butterfly, 400-meter freestyle, 50-meter freestyle, 200-meter individual medley, IM, and 100-meter freestyle. Celeste was also the FINA high point winner. She deserves a round. Madam Speaker, the only race she participated in and did not win was a 200-meter butterfly. She won the silver behind the gold that was captured by Bahamian Skylar Smith. Madam Speaker, that's just one of the many golden performances by our team, as David Singh competed in the boys 11 and 12 division and captured 6 gold and 2 silver medals. Renishka Gibson and Nigel Forbes are new record holders. Gibson's record is in the 50-meter breaststroke for 15-17 girls, and Forbes in the 100-meter butterfly for boys 15-17. Madam Speaker, our swim team came home to a hero's welcome. The entourage was escorted from the airport to the National Thomas A. Robinson Stadium, entered through the gantry, and did a victory lap in front of a jam-packed stadium. The electrifying moment was unmatched and was witnessed by all the Caribbean who were watching via television and over the social media platform. This was just one of the many moments that made all Bahamians beam with pride. We as a country were truly united in love and service. Madam Speaker, the Bahamas is the host of the Carifta Swimming next year and will be looking to secure its 6th consecutive championship title. I encourage the entire country to come out and support, and when our track and field team return from Grenada next year, they will be welcomed home in the same grand style. Madam Speaker, Bahamians everywhere are still bragging about the 3-day of track and field hosted here at home in the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium. It was a joyous occasion to witness the celebratory moments and the happiness of Bahamian people coming together as one, united in love and service to support our nation youth, whom all have represented us well and made us all proud. Madam Speaker, with the 2023 being the 50th anniversary Bahamian independence and the 50th edition of the Carifta Track and Field Championships, I must congratulate our young athletes who performed admirably. Team Bahamas was able to improve its medal count by some 29 medals compared to last year's games total count of 17. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister asked the B3As and the organizers of athletics in the country that we must improve our medal count. And we did so, despite not the physical opposition, but so those who still complain. Not them. They on our side. They support. You support what the kids did. But even now, you still have some saying, not the official opposition. Those who still does not want to give our youth its praises. So many were looking at the total medal won, which was 46, or the second place finish behind Jamaica. Many will overlook how huge the impact was on and off the track. Madam Speaker, we saw a great economic growth this holiday weekend. There was an increase in airlift, hotel accommodations, car, and Airbnb rentals, as well as the domestic shopping. This is also the power of sports. Yes, sports have the power to change the world, but it also unites and improves it. Madam Speaker, before I speak about the performance of the young athletes and the support shown by the Bahamians, I would like to highlight some preliminary figures associated with the hosting of these games. Ticketing sales over the course of the 3 days totaled some $400,062.53. To date, $725,275 cash was received in sponsorship. $30,900 collected from vendors' concession. NACA grant total some $59,700, and we collected some $133,780.78 marked as levy fees. The total revenue generated for the period September 22 to April 11, 23 is some $1,393,480.88. The government investment to date is some $4.4 million. The overall revenue received plus the government subsidy as of April 11, 2023 total some $5,802,094.56, with the operation expense of some $4,488,066.76. Madam Speaker, the government has realized the need for ongoing upgrades and repairs to the TAR Stadium in order to maintain a facility that meets the world-class standard, which is vital to our Sports in Paradise brand. To date, we would have invested some $2.7 million towards the stadium upgrades. And Madam Speaker, this will continue until the stadium reaches the level that we feel is suitable for world class. Madam Speaker, as the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, I am truly proud of the results of the 50th Golden Carifta Games we hosted. Although the goal was to win 50 medals to honor the 50th independence, our young men and women did exceptionally well, achieving 46 total medals. And that included 10 gold, 13 silver, and 23 bronze. Madam Speaker, the 50th edition of the Carifta Games, as stated by the World Athletic President, Lord Sebastian Pope. I want them to print this.
What did he say, the best?
His quote was, "The best Carifta Games ever." Said it was the best Carifta Games ever. Explanation mark.
makes it look salty,
Madam Speaker, this Carifta was Carifta of many firsts. The first two special Olympic races were integrated into the meet. Special Olympics 100 and 200 meter races, won by Deron Forbes and Justin Miller, respectively. Women's pole vault was included. For the first time, all 28 CARICOM countries were represented at Carifta. All 28. I ain't get there yet. Give me a second. It's coming. The Bahamas had a full, again, for the first time, 80-member contingent team, and we had a consistent viewership of the games that was over 100,000 on our Carifta Facebook Live account. Madam Speaker, it is not just an investment in sports alone that made this event phenomenal. But, yeah, it was the unique collaboration of the three pillars of what makes the Bahamas great. Our Bahamian culture was fully displayed leading up to and during the games. Prior to the event, the local organization committee of the 50th Carifta Games arranged weekly prayers for our team with the understanding of how important God is to our people and a nation. Along with this vein, church service was held in the Cultural Village Amphitheater in the weeks leading up to the games on Easter Sunday, a celebration of God's importance within our nation as a people, and to pray for the success of the games, health of our athletes, coaches, and officials. Our culture display continued from the dynamic opening ceremony to the closing of the event. Throughout the 50th Carifta events, Bahamians and visitors alike heard our country music, saw our unique dance, artistry, and the colors of our beautiful nation represented. Good Friday, April 7th, after the opening ceremony, we held a concert with the Bahamian artists, music, and full cultural production showcasing local Bahamian talents. Madam Speaker, I want to highlight the winners of the Junior Junkanoo Parade, the C.V. Bell Stingrays, who, along with the Genesis Teen Hawks and the Carifta Congos, who provided sweet musical support and energy from the start of the games until the end. With the Junkanoo music, all Caribbean countries just visit the Carifta Games to hear. The Carifta song and music video, Come Gold With Us, written and produced by our very own Bahamian musician, Sammy Starr, featured several young athletes who also contributed to our medal count. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the strong understanding that our youth is the foundation of our country's continual progression and prosperity was evident. The execution of much of the organization, marketing, and management of what made these games excellent was due to the support of the many young workers, professionals, and volunteers. These young Bahamians provided the logistic, artistic, and professional support needed that enable us to promote, highlight, and encourage persons from throughout the region to participate. Leading up to the games, the young volunteers assisted in handing out flyers and other activities to raise public awareness and excitement for the games. They participated in float parade and pep rally celebrating the selection of Team Bahamas as well as encouraging them to succeed. We had a group of young athletes called our Carifta ambassadors, some of whom were also Team Bahamas Carifta athletes. These ambassadors helped push and promote the marketing by making themselves available as models for much of the paraphernalia, billboards, and graphic artistry we have seen before and during the games. Those that did not make the team continued to assist in other areas. Our youth also assisted at every venue, including the Super Club Breezes Hotel, which served as a lodging for the visiting teams, the airport to greet dignitaries, teams, visitors, and those coming in for the games at the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium in every capacity we needed. Finally, Madam Speaker, I must highlight our young athletes who performed exceptionally and made us proud as they represented us in their aquamarine, black and gold. As our Carifta song stated, "Come gold with us." They gave their best and did just that. Madam Speaker, I want to highlight athletes like Jemiah Nabi, who brought
from Nabi, she from Vinewood. Don't let that name get you. She from Vinewood. She from Vinewood, not that Nabi.
Jemiah brought home the gold for us in the 100-meter and 200-meter under 17 girls. Kamira Strawn, who won the gold and set who set a new record for javelin in the under 17 girls. Kaden Smith for the under 17 200 meters. Kadian Cartwright, gold in the under 20 javelin. And Brandon Vanderpool for the men's open pole vault, setting a new Carifta record of 5.06 meters. And national record. Our under 17 and 4x1 men relay team of Trent Ford, Andrew Brown, Caden Smith, and Ishmael Roll, all the way from Garden Hills, who brought home the gold. He brought home, I had to put that there. He brought home the gold. They brought home the gold in the 4x1 relay. Madam Speaker, I would be remiss not to forget the winners of the first ever mixed Central Grand Bahama men's and women 4x4 open team of Javonia Valcott, Tanami Skinner, Lakit Tunami Skinner, Lucretia Cooper, Shamaya Bain, who also brought home gold for the Bahamas. Yes. I am proud of our athletes, of all of them, for their hard work, their accomplishments, whether they medaled or not. We are to be proud of them and cherish their dedication and encouraged to step on the track and field to represent our country in front of the world audience. I would be remiss not to mention the B3As and all the hard-working administrators and coaches and support given in training these young athletes for the world stage. Madam Speaker, this was the best showing since 1985. East Grand Bahama, Central Grand Bahama, you know, from 1985, this is the most medals we ever win. Still, we get some people over there talking fool is a very serious thing. Some people out there, not him, he's a good man. No. The investment made was the best choice, and as Minister of Sport, one that I will make again.
That's right.
This year, we hosted the Caribbean's best in athletics. The next year, our swimmers will be on full display in a newly renovated swimming complex. As previously stated, they will be looking to capture their 6th consecutive title and 9th overall championship crown. Our track and field athletes will head to Grenada. They too will be flown free on the National Fly Carrier Bahamas Air, courtesy of the Davis-led administration. Madam Speaker, we will continue to invest in our youth. The future, the future of our country as they make historical progress towards the better future in sports and the country as a whole. They will know that this Davis-led administration were the ones who fully supported and embraced their ideas. And Madam Speaker, I would just like to lay this on the table for the record. As in the Olympics, disciplines are separated, and the Carifta, they are separated. But we know that even though the swimming and track are separated, when you combine the total medal counts, the Bahamas would have had 126 medals. Which then would be followed by JAR of 101 medals. You know JAR. And then followed by Trinidad by 76. So said, so done. We are not divided as a nation. We are united. So we add them together and say, we still the best in the Caribbean. I rest.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We do swimming, eh? We do swimming? Swimming? Order that the document be brought out. Order the document to lie on the table. Further communications? Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for agreeing to permit members of the opposition to lend our voices in congratulating the Bahamian athletes, both in swimming and in track and field. A number of my colleagues have interest, Madam Speaker, in lending their voice, because many of the athletes hail from all of our constituencies. Let me begin, Madam Speaker, by saying congratulations to the Minister with responsibility for sports, the Honorable Mario Boleg, for assembling a wonderful team, the LOC, which a number of us have worked with before, the local organizing committee. We thought was populated by a number of very talented Bahamians, and so we want to recognize certainly Mr. Lyndon Maycock for the work that he did. And then, of course, Madam Speaker, we won't be able to name all of the persons, but we were particularly impressed with the advocacy by Pauline Davis, who played a pivotal role in a number of ways. As you know, the World Relays in large measure came to the Bahamas through Pauline Davis. She played a wonderful role on the international scene. So did Mike Sands, who followed her in the position on the IAAF board, and again on the council. And so we want to recognize those elite athletes who went on to administration and worked along with Minister Boleg, and of course Tramiko Archer, the head of the B3As. But Madam Speaker, the bulk of the praise really goes to the athletes who have done a phenomenal job, and to their parents and the coaches and the entire support system that has been built around them. We also want to say a special thank you, Madam Speaker, to all of the sponsors who came on board. And so we want to say to the Minister, as we've been doing since the election of 2021, that this side, we support sports development. We have on our side an Olympian in the member for Central Grand Bahama. And again, we also have whispering in our ears multiple Olympians who were a part of the last administration. And so we want to commend you and all of your support team, who we believe put on a wonderful Carifta. So let me begin, Madam Speaker, by saying how proud we were of the team that went to Curacao. And Madam Speaker, sports has a way of lifting the entire spirit of a country. I remember during the pandemic, when we were looking at the year-end review, out of all of the negative reports of things that were happening in general, the thing that lifted our spirit was the way our athletes were performing overseas, particularly when track and field had resumed. Bahamians of all political colors were united. I remember being in the bank one day and watching Bahamians who didn't know each other high-five each other as Bahamians were performing well internationally. And so, Madam Speaker, historically, sports has been a unifying force, and we support greater financial investment in the sports facilities and in facilitating our team's success in the various disciplines. Madam Speaker, the Carifta Swimming Championships in Willemstad, Curaçao, was remarkable for us in that we, for the 5th consecutive time, Madam Speaker, emerged as the victors in Carifta with a record 1,135 points. What was even more impressive, Madam Speaker, is that the team won a record 85 medals, inclusive of 37 gold, 27 silver, and 21 bronze. And I liked what the Minister for Sports did by combining both swimming and track and field. I think that's the story we should stay with as a country when we report on Carifta, that we are dominant in the region. I thought it was a wonderful twist. Madam Speaker, in track and field, we placed second, and I remember going to meets when I was very young, and Madam Speaker, I was never so proud to see the way in which the Bahamas has rebounded in track and field in this particular Carifta game. It was wonderful to see Mary Ann Higgs, who are persons like, I'm sure, the member for Long Island and the member for St. Anne's, were maybe too young to be in the stadium, but they have heard of these legends. And there are a few other young folks on the other side. But Madam Speaker, to see the legends that were there, Debbie Ferguson and others, it really took me back many years. Madam Speaker, the track team did exceptionally well, 46 total medals, inclusive, Madam Speaker, of more golds than we had certainly gotten the last time, and of course, an increase in both silver and bronze medal. Madam Speaker, we were especially proud of the new events, and I thought it was a wonderful touch to show the inclusiveness by having the special athletes participate in these games. And of course, we were one of the innovators when we hosted the World Relays in terms of how we introduced the athletes. And it was wonderful to see that we took that even to another level. Every country after the World Relays was hosted in the Bahamas followed the Bahamas system in how athletes emerged out on the track. And we have taken that, I believe, to another level in this particular Carifta. Madam Speaker, the B3As continue to demonstrate its capacity to organize along with the local organizing committee, which I hope that the Prime Minister would look at ways in which we are able to regulate and organize multiple LOCs, because I think it is the way forward for organizing events, that ministry staffs are often stretched too thin to manage all of the moving parts when we put on these incredible international events. And we might look at a permanent secretariat or authority for organizing these events. We'll be able to work out some of the kinks that may have emerged, but the kinks that emerged did not overshadow the brilliance of our athletic performances over this past weekend. We had a chance, persons who ordinarily wear red and who wear yellow had a chance to celebrate the country together in the stadium and to watch Bahamians of all political stripes, and some with none at all, who were celebrating together. It was a wonderful spirit in the stadium. It is most unfortunate that we are unable to continue, or sometimes unwilling to continue, that here in the House of Assembly. But Madam Speaker, yeah, including including myself. I have a way of admitting I only encourage you to do the same. So, Madam Speaker, let me say that, on the last night we did deviate somewhat from the recommended color scheme that was being used every night. Obviously, when we got to the final night of competition, Madam Speaker, we were advised to all wear gold. But we noticed, Madam Speaker, that, the gold looked more yellow, and we had yellow phobia. So we tried to wear the Bahamian colors, but we had good fun. I said to the Prime Minister, I said, no use looking for an excuse to put this yellow on. But Madam Speaker, it was a wonderful competition. I wish, Madam Speaker, to also recognize the Swim Federation. I think Algernon and Cargill and that entire team have been doing a remarkable job over the years, but the coaches of the swim team they ought to be commended, Madam Speaker, for the incredible work that they did, and we would support the minister with responsibility for sports. Again, we know that there is a subvention program that is in place, and there is a need to increase the subvention, but certainly swimming is one of those areas that need additional funding. We're happy that we have a retired softball player in the Prime Minister who's in the chair, and who would no doubt, as Minister of Finance, increase the subvention to sports in general, but certainly to the Swim Federation in particular. When we were in office, one of the commitments we got from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Prime Minister, was Sarah St. George indicated a willingness to commit 50% of the costs, to handle 50% of the cost to create a new 50-meter swimming pool in Grand Bahama. The projected figures were around $2 million. We've certainly been in discussion with the Minister of Sports with respect to continuing that. I believe that there's a huge opportunity in Grand Bahama to build out that complex. And while some will argue that given the priorities in the country that we ought to steer away from allocating those funds, the young people, I believe, is a justification for increasing the subvention. This side will not play politics with something so important as sports development. The orange economy, we believe, is the way forward. It is one of the fastest growing sectors of national economies globally, and the government will find a friend in this administration under my leadership that is prepared to support increased allocation of resources to sports in general, and certainly to track and field, swimming, and others in particular. And so we again salute the B3A's executives, the coaches that supported these young people, particularly in swimming, all of the physiotherapists that assisted them, all of the parents who traveled to Curacao, and all of the guardians who supported our young people. I must give a special shout out to my grandniece, who was one of the performers and gold medalists, Skylar Smith, to say how much we love you, along with all of our athletes. And of course, there are a number of athletes from throughout Grand Bahama, Marco City in general, so I won't seek to name all of them, but to give a shout out to Tristan Hepburn, who did a remarkable job as usual. My final comments, Madam Speaker, are these. We stand with the Minister of Sports because we recognize that sports play a key role in at least 6 areas. One, you develop elite athletes. Already we have Bahamians who are part of producing Carifta records, even in this Carifta. We saw in athletes from Jamaica that they're not only record holders in Carifta, but global record holders. And so we know that sports has the ability to produce elite athletes. The second reason we support sports development, Madam Speaker, is that it produces free education, higher education for thousands of Bahamians. Cynthia Mother Pratt was one of many coaches. Norris Bain, yet another coach. There are many of them who have assisted young people in going off to school and getting a free education because of their prowess in education. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, athletics help to fight non-communicable diseases in particular, obesity. And so we know that when you invest in sports, you invest in producing elite athletes, providing higher education, and fighting non-communicable diseases. And final three, Madam Speaker, the fourth pillar we believe sports should be built on is that it generates employment. Many of our elite athletes who participated in CARIFTA in the past are now coaching at universities around the world and producing global Olympic medalists, world championship medalists, etc. And then fifthly, Madam Speaker, sports provides recreation. One of the reasons I note the deputy prime minister, not just from Toastmasters, but also playing basketball on Stapleton Court. Recreation has a way of creating camaraderie. And so the reality is, the reason we work with Nabi is, Nabi used to be able to play, Madam Speaker, when he was much younger as a basketball player. And so the recreation, Madam Speaker, it reduces the venom in the politics. And finally, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the sixth pillar of sports, which is why we stand with the Minister of Sports, Madam Speaker, it developed important attributes. Attributes such as discipline, which our athletes displayed on the track, on the field, and in the pool. Secondly, perseverance and teamwork, and knowing how to compete clean, so that when you win today, your medal is able to stand the test of time, as opposed to being taken away because you were completing doped up or juiced up. And so we believe that the sixth pillar of sport, creating the right kind of characteristics in Bahamian, is very important. And so we say to all of our young people, all of the coaches, ministry officials, the LOC, all sponsors, everybody who played a role, parents, but most importantly, our athletes, how proud we are of you, and we congratulate you on an incredible CARIFTA. God bless you.
Thank you. Communication, do you want to table that? Yes. Thank you, Honorable Member. Order the document be brought up. Order that the document lie on the table. The chair recognizes the honorable member for West Grand, Bahama and Bimini.
Madam Speaker, just before the first reading of bills, Madam Speaker, I've spoken with the opposition and received permission from the opposition to withdraw the central bank bill that was laid on the table of the House in February. Wish to withdraw that bill and replace it with a new bill. I explained to the side opposite that changes had to be made. They accepted, and so, Madam Speaker, with your concurrence, we wish to proceed.
Thank you, honorable member. Senat.
Madam Speaker, I confirm on behalf of the opposition that was agreed with the government side.
Thank you, honorable member. We revert back to the order. Communications by the clerk. Question time.
And we have agreed to these 30-minute question time period. I've spoken with the members opposite. We've agreed to proceed now, after which we'll get to first readings. And then, Madam Speaker, also alert you that we have received support from the opposition to have a resolution debate today, but a resolution of a different kind. There's a major announcement that both sides agreed to, and so there'll be only two speakers, the mover and the second, the mover from our side, and the second will come from the side opposite.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable members, let's be aware that question time will be held 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This is a question for the Honorable Prime Minister, the member for Cat Island. Minister of Finance. Will the Honorable Prime Minister provide this Honorable House with the following documents from the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank? MOU on SDR, $232 million, the amount drawn down on and the purpose for which the amounts were used.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Cat Island, Rum Kings, and Salvador.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The MOU asked for was previously provided to the clerk for transmission to the opposition. That was some time ago. You would recall. You haven't gotten it? No, that's it. You haven't gotten it. The Speaker has it. So the Speaker, the clerk was sent to him several weeks ago. It should have been passed on to you. That's a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank. So that should have been passed on to you, and you will get it. Insofar as the purpose, the amount drawn, the full amount was drawn.
Yes, sorry. Again, Madam Speaker, we have not received it. We have gotten an indication that the clerk will undertake to check for it, but to date we have not seen it.
The full amount of the $232 million was drawn. The purpose was that as designed by the IMF. It was used for the purpose that was designed by the IMF. During our debate on this issue, you get the full explanation.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable
Madam
member.
Speaker, just before moving on for that, I don't believe that we had the response on, the purpose was responded. We don't have confirmation as to whether they've been used. But that's fine for that question. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister. This is a question for the Honourable Alfred Sears. In his absence, the minister that would be holding for him. The question is, will the Honourable... Okay. We'll come back to that, Madam Speaker. This is a question for the Honourable Jo Beth Colby Davis. Will the Honourable Minister provide this Honourable House with the record of the bidding process to select the driving certification company with the Ministry of Transport and secure the contract and/or MOU?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to respond and inform the honourable member that I intend to present the relevant documents to this House at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marco City.
This question is for the Honourable Prime Minister, Philip Davis. Will the Honourable Prime Minister provide this Honourable House with all expenses, receipts, donations towards the trip to Bermuda that was made by Prime Minister Davis and delegation to attend the convention of the Progressive Labour Party?
Chair recognizes the honourable member for Cat
I
Island.
regret to inform the honourable member that this question falls outside the purview of the government as it pertains exclusively to the Progressive Liberal Party political organization.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marco City.
Madam Speaker, we'll revisit that matter certainly this week because all records would have gone through Ministry of Finance. Madam Speaker, once again, question for the Prime Minister. Will the Honourable Prime Minister provide the Honourable House with the record of payments that were made to the several persons who they would have given what has been considered confidential settlement packages? Former ministers, confidential payments to Shane Gibson. Sorry? You want me to read it as is? Certainly, no problem. Will the Honourable Prime Minister Will the Honorable Prime Minister provide the Honorable House with the record of payments that were made to Shane Gibson, Clayton Fernanda, Lamont Delaveau, and Simon Wilson?
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Cat Island, Member King to Salvador.
Payments. Madam Speaker, to the member, it is with great restraint that I must decline to provide a response, as any disclosure regarding this matter at this time might adversely impact and unduly influence ongoing legal proceedings pertaining to pending like claims against the government. There's still a lot of them that that lies at your feet. But it's sort of a lot of other legal proceedings with like claims, and to be able to disclose this at this time could prejudice the ongoing negotiations and those proceedings.
Yes.
Chair recognizes the honourable member for Martin City.
To the Honorable Prime Minister, will the Honorable Prime Minister provide this House with the travel costs for each ministry and government corporation from the 16th of September 2021?
There is an allocation in all ministries' budget that speaks to travel expenses. So I kindly direct the honourable member to review the relevant expenditure allocation in the recently published mid-year budget and the annual budget that was voted on by all present.
Thank you, honourable member.
Madam Speaker, Prime Minister very well knows allocation does not translate into actual expenditure. However, question number 42, Madam Speaker, to the Honourable Prime Minister. Will the Honourable Prime Minister provide the House with the records of all funds owed to all government corporations by FTX or any of its subsidiaries?
I must respectfully decline to discuss this matter, as the current status of FTX is sub judice before the courts, not at this time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a question for the Honourable Jo Beth Colby Davis. Will the Honourable Minister provide this Honourable House with the records of all loan arrangements in which the Ministry of Housing or the Mortgage Corporation are involved?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to answer. Neither the Ministry of Housing nor the Mortgage Corp is a party to any loan arrangements. The Mortgage Corporation continues to uphold its statutory mandate in providing mortgage loans for qualified Bahamians. And surely the Honourable Member does not expect me to bring all those files of private citizens to the Honourable House, which I will not do. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable member. Further questions? The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
Speaker, this is a question for the Honourable Minister Frederick Mitchell, member for Fox Hill. Is there another?
Ministry will respond.
Okay. Will the Honourable Minister inform the Honourable House of the extent of the government's exposure as a result of the re-engagement of retired permanent secretaries and other senior civil servants?
You may proceed, Golden Gates.
This question has been given to the House. I don't understand why there's uncertainty.
The Minister, Madam Speaker, the Minister is in here and we have no response to the matter.
You may proceed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. East Grand Bahama. The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
Will the Honourable Minister provide this Honourable House with a statement of all increases in responsibility allowance across the public service?
On November 25th, 2022, via circular number 23 of 2022, the Ministry of Public Service provided a full listing of all amended responsibility allowances as approved at the 47th meeting of Cabinet on Tuesday, the 22nd of November 2022. Item E addressed the increase of responsibility allowance at Annex 1, which I will lay in this Honourable House today in response to the question from the member.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order the document lie on the table. The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the honourable minister provide this honourable House with a list of all new lease arrangements entered by various government agencies since the 16th of September 2021?
A number of factors lend to the engagement of new leases by our administration in an effort to improve the working environment of government employees and in compliance with the ILO Decent Work Program signed by our Prime Minister in October of 2021, as well as where required to provide additional space to growing ministries. 16 new leases were engaged by the Ministry of Public Service from September 2021 to date. Further, as a result of buildings or rental spaces not meeting the standards of the Ministry of Public Services mandate, or ministries requiring additional or improved space, to date, 14 leases have been terminated. The Ministry of Public Service, through the implementation of an inspectorate within our accommodations unit, continues in our ongoing efforts to terminate leases not meeting the standards and conditions suitable for government employees, while also providing a safe and clean working environment. We anticipate a number of additional terminations to be forthcoming. A list can be compiled and provided. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Will the honourable minister advise this honourable House on the number of retired public officers who return to work? And two, are these public officers receiving full pension and pay?
Madam Speaker, the Minister has not provided a response.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order the document lie on the table.
Will the honourable minister advise this honourable House on the number of envoys this administration has added, and are they all paid?
Left a response.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You may proceed, East Grand Bahama.
And finally, will the honourable minister advise the this honourable House on the amount of foreign service officers, attachés, and other staff members this administration has posted and where?
Madam Speaker, the Minister has not left a response.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Further questions?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes
This is
the
a
Honourable
question
Member
for, thank you, Madam Speaker. Question for Dr. the Honourable Michael Darville.
There's no answer available. He's out of country.
Thank you.
Is there any minister standing in to give his response?
No, not with
These
the
are
response of
questions
the
that have
minister.
been
The minister will
given prior.
respond upon his return.
Okay.
Yes, but the minister will respond upon his return.
The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Markham City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the Honourable Prime Minister advise this House of the terms of engagement for the consulting firm McKinsey & Company? Secondly, what procurement process was used to engage this company? Thirdly, how many bids were received? And finally, what is the value of the contract and how much has been spent to date?
I do not have that information today, Madam Speaker, but wish to inform the honourable member that I've asked this dedicated team at the ministry who is diligently working to procure the information as requested. As it stands, as I said, I've not yet received that information. And the other following 3 questions, I just put as noted. And as soon as we have it, we'll supply it.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Snacks.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This question...
My answers, because I think they're all the questions that are asked of me. And I wish to lay my answers on the table.
Are there any other ministers who would like to lay their responses? Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. Documents do lie on the table. Sir Nancy, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a question for the Honourable Alfred Sears. Will the Honourable Minister provide this Honourable House with the breakdown of BPL's $150 million in arrears?
Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Port Charles.
The member, I think, is referring to the $150 million in arrears that are directly related to the legacy fuel arrears from Shell. A breakdown is unavailable at this time as the debt relates to supply of fuel over an extended period of time. And as the breakdown is made available, I undertake to supply it.
Madam Speaker,
Thank you, Honourable Member.
This is just a follow-up question to that response. Is there a reasonable time frame that we can expect the Minister to come back with that breakdown?
I certainly will push. I mean, it's being prepared through the ministry in concert with other ministries and as well as with BPL.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Madam Speaker, just for the record, there was a number of questions that weren't answered. If I can put those on record so that we're clear. Question number 44, question number 47, question number 48, question number 49, question number 50, question number 51. 51 was not answered, Madam Speaker. Those will be live in our view.
Madam Speaker, the government takes notice, and we have noted that some questions were not, and we intend to respond to the questions asked by the opposition. Madam Speaker, the opposition is asking for 5 minutes as we've completed this moment, and we want to go to the laying of bills. And we'll lay the bills, then we'll do the 5 minutes, then we'll go to resolutions.
Thank you, Honourable. Okay. We revert back to the order of business.
I would like to just thank you for overseeing that manner in which question time was carried out today.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Thank you.
Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the Senate. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign seat in New Red. Presentations of petitions. Presentations of reports of committees. Adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Cat Island, Rum, Kings, and Salvador.
As foreshadowed by the leader of government business, we seek leave to withdraw the bill number 65 on the agenda, which is the bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of the Bahamas Act, which I gather has already been acceded to by the other side, and for that we replaced it with a new bill, a Central Bank of Bahamas, Central Bank of the Bahamas Amendment Bill 2023. It's just that we're coming with 2 separate amendments, and we just thought to collapse them. We want to do with the SDRs, that's when we'll talk about what it really means, and I trust that the members opposite will have a change of heart as to what they've been saying about that when they see the full picture and understand the mandate from the IMF. And then there's another arrangement that relating to government borrowings from central bank and the ratio that the central bank is seeking to have that adjusted, which we will debate at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Order the document be brought up. Order the document to lie on the table. Yes. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm wondering whether or not the Prime Minister or the Leader of Government Business can say when the date of that particular debate is going to occur.
To the member for Marco City, Madam Speaker, we intend to debate next week, Wednesday. We have two important bills we wish to deal with, the law revision bill and also the central bank bill. Both are to be debated next week.
But separately?
Yes, second.
Thank you, Honourable Member. For the first reading?
No further first readings, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Second reading, Committee of Bills?
Madam Speaker, the member has asked for 5 minutes to have a quick but a very brief conversation. We don't intend to spend more than that time. 5 minutes, and we'll return to continue our move to the resolution, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Yes.
No. Is there a second there? Thank you, honourable members. It's been moved and seconded that the business of this House be suspended for 5 minutes. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is agreed. The business of this House is now suspended for 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the honourable member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
Madam Speaker, after discussion with the Leader of the Opposition, we now move to resolutions, and there will be two speakers. One will be the mover, which will be the Honourable Minister, and the Leader of the Opposition will second, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honourable member. I presume we are now ready to proceed. Order of business. Committee of the whole House. Third reading and passing of bills. Consideration of Senate's amendments. Resolutions. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Central and South Eleuthera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg leave to give notice of the following resolution. Resolution approving sailing as a national sport of the Bahamas. Whereas the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas are known for their unique wooden vessels, built of horse flesh and hard pine, known as sloops, which have been used for decades throughout the islands of the Bahamas in cultural and sporting events known as regattas. And whereas the participation of the Bahamas in the sport of sailing was recognized by the achievement of bronze and gold medals in the Olympic competitions in 1956 and 1964, respectively, and whereas sloop sailing, yacht sailing, and other forms of sailing, whether for recreational purposes or otherwise, have become a hobby or activity in which many Bahamians are engaged in and have contributed to the economy of local communities through the many cultural and sporting events. And whereas over the years, the sport of sailing has proven to provide greater entertainment and prominence than the current recognized national sport of the Bahamas. And whereas the government of the said Commonwealth of the Bahamas having A, acknowledged the greater prominence of sailing generally as a sport in the Bahamas, and B, received the support of the majority of the registered sporting federations, has determined to recognize the sport as the national sport of the Bahamas. Now therefore be it resolved that this House approves sailing as the national sport of the Bahamas. Can I record you? Madam Speaker, I am so happy to be here to support this historic resolution to name sailing the national sport of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This has been a long-awaited announcement by Bahamians far and wide, as sailing has been and will always be a part of who we are as Bahamians. For centuries, Bahamians have been known as masters of the sea, from the Lucayans and Arawaks, swashbuckling pirates, quaint workboats to meticulously crafted sloop race boats. Bahamians have evolved the sport of sailing as it plays an integral part of our culture. Historians tell us that the first regatta was held in Rowville, Exuma in 1943. However, in the late 1950s, regattas became more organized, comprehensive, and technical. The first regatta, held in the Elizabeth Harbor, Georgetown, Exuma, was recorded on March 26 to the 28th, 1954, and was considered a main event as more than 70 vessels from throughout the Bahamas competed. Madam Speaker, over the next several decades, the sport grew in strength and is now a formidable economic driver for the Family Islands. Sailing is so unique to each island that participates in holding regattas. The international community noticed this early on there was a period of time when the international yachting community formed an organization called the Out Island Squadron to fund Bahamian regattas. In 1959, the late Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, was both a patron and a participant of the regatta in Georgetown, Exuma, signaling to the world the importance of this national treasure. Another pivotal milestone in Bahamian history was cemented by the late Sir Durward Knowles and Cecil Cook, who won the first ever Olympic gold medal for the Bahamas in sailing in 1964. Soon after, the government of the Bahamas began sponsoring regattas, a privilege that is now carried by my ministry. When the Bahamas became independent, a sailing regatta was held for the first time outside of Georgetown, Exuma, in New Providence. There are currently 18 senior regattas held throughout this country. There are also some 17 junior sailing events that take place annually. Races are held in the A, B, C, and E divisions as they differ in boat size, but not in the fierce nature of the overall competition. There is no doubt that regattas are essential to the social, economic, and cultural development of our country. Regattas are a natural draw for Bahamians throughout our islands and encourages sustainable domestic tourism. It also gives Bahamians of different talents the opportunity to showcase their crafts for all to enjoy. Each island where regattas are held benefit from a significant economic boost. Artisans, musicians, food vendors, and mailboat operators all benefit from the popularity of regattas. Madam Speaker, we cannot name sailing the national sport without recognizing the many champions who have built the sport to what it is today. Though it would be impossible to name everyone, legitimate sailing champions such as Raleigh Gray, Hasron Moxie, Edgar Moxie, Rupert Knowles, Vernon Lockhart, Livingston Miller, Brooks Miller, Alfred Bain, Fred Finley, Richard Hapburn, Samuel Stubbs, and Lauren Knowles must be given their just due. These athletes use their intelligence, their hearts, and their brawn to develop sloop sailing in our country. They have paved the way and inspired many Bahamians to continue to excel in sailing. Madam Speaker, sailing in the Bahamas is extraordinary and legendary. No other sport shares the amount of depth it has in our history. There is simply nothing like it. As a former fisherman, I've always been drawn to the water, and with sailing, it is no different. I've sailed at every regatta I've attended, and a tradition I hope to keep in the future. Madam Speaker, the world continues to mark the manner of our bearing when it comes to sailing. We continue to march on to glory as we are seeing our youth take a keen interest in the sport. And this is from not just male, but female sailors as well. Young Craig Ferguson made waves last year when he won the overall title in the Silver Fleet at the 2022 Arcus Optimus World Championship in Bodrum, Turkey. Young sailors like Ellie Ann Higgs, Joshua Higgins, Spencer Cartwright, Joshua Welch, Paul DeSouza, Finley McKinney Lambert, Zay Monroe, Joshua Weech, and others have represented the Bahamas internationally. Madam Speaker, Bahamians continue to make their mark globally in sports, but today also in sailing. We want to thank the various youth sailing clubs such as the Royal Nassau Sailing Club, the Bahamas National Sailing School, the Lyford Key Sailing School, the Exuma Sailing Club, Abaco Sailing Club, the Eleuthera Sailing Association, and the Bahamas Sailing Association, the governing body, for continuing our country's legacy in sailing. There is no doubt that the future is bright for sailing in the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, in January, under the patronage of my ministry, See How the Mainsail Sets debuted at Fusion Superplex, the 90-minute documentary, which is revealing and timely, as it is a masterpiece detailing the history of boat building and sloop sailing throughout the Bahamas. My ministry is grateful to the highly acclaimed Bahamian producer, director Charlie Smith, a.k.a. Charlie Bahama, executive producers Fred Munnings and Nader Hassan, Commodore Dennis Strawn, the movie group, and Dr. Christopher Curry for their awesome work on the film. This film is expected to be released internationally this year. Madam Speaker, we are proud to anchor sailing as the national sport of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. For more than 70 years, Bahamians have displayed passion and grit for the sport, and it is one that has bridged the gap between young and older Bahamians. We have witnessed its evolution, and it is a sport that has won the hearts of many Bahamians and the millions of visitors to the Bahamas. It is a sport that reminds us of who we are, a friendly, maritime people that continues to make waves internationally by sailing with vigor and grace, the underpinnings of the Bahamian spirit. My ministry and I are proud of everything this sport has achieved and will achieve for our country over the next 50 years of independence. We salute all boat owners, boat builders, sail makers, mast and jib trimmers, anchor road haulers, and pride riders for their tireless dedication to the sport. And we look forward to seeing this incredible sport grow for many more years to come. Madam Speaker, I often speak of governments being continuous. This is indicative of the fruition of the historic announcement today. This is one thing we can all agree on today. 1 week ahead of the National Family Island Regatta to be held at Georgetown to see it in action. I would like to thank the ministers that sat in the chair before myself for their work and vision to help develop the sport of sailing. I would also like to recognize the contribution of the former Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, the member for Marco City, and the former administration for taking the initial steps to name sailing as a national sport. I would also like to extend my sincere appreciation to the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, the member for Garden Hills, the Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, and the member for Exumas and Ragged Islands, the Honorable Prime Minister and member for Cat Island, Rum Cay, and San Salvador, and all Cabinet colleagues who have supported this effort. In 2023, the year of our Golden Jubilee, I am privileged to stand here today to declare this resolution that we move to make sailing the national sport of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Is there a seconder? The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one of the challenges the Bahamas has had in national governance is the frequent change of the configuration of different ministries. Each administration that comes in have its own notion about what departments ought to be placed where. And for the most part, over the entire 50 years of our collective administrations, I believe that leaders in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas have gotten it, for the most part, correctly. However, Madam Speaker, there are times when there is a disconnect by members of the public when they look at where certain departments are placed. And so we still have some work to do in order to harmonize, Madam Speaker, the structure of our ministries, which in turn lead to the appropriate functioning of our respective ministries. This resolution today, Madam Speaker, gives us yet another opportunity to continue to make sure that the appropriate departments fit within the context of the appropriate ministries. I say that, Madam Speaker, as a backdrop against which the opposition supports this resolution brought by the Minister with responsibility for Agriculture, Marine Resources, Cooperatives, and Local Government, the Honorable Clay Sweeting. Madam Speaker, it was important while we were in the chair to advance a discussion, Madam Speaker, that had been carried out by successive ministries. It has been a long aspiration of both the Progressive Liberal Party as well as the Free National Movement to have sailing. First it began, Madam Speaker, as sloop sailing, designated as the national sport. The discussion evolved over time to a broader discussion about having sailing in general. So, Madam Speaker, the distinction that has often been made is sloop sailing are those boats that are used in regattas in particular. That would not have fully captured the vision of boat administrations over time. The vision was to look at that particular sport that had a national impact, that had tremendous support among Bahamians of all ages, all ethnic groups, to look at a sport that added economic impact to the communities throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But I believe the overarching motivator for multiple, not just ministers, but practitioners in the sailing community was a sport that had the ability to capture who we were and who we are as a people. And sailing is in our DNA. It is something that intersects with almost every area of our lives. So, for example, Madam Speaker, the Royal Exuma Regatta in 1943 was in large measure the African population, by and large, response to exclusion from another competition that was going on among sailors in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And Madam Speaker, that regatta and those that immediately followed involved Bahamian men in particular, but as mentioned earlier, certainly not exclusive, sailing in their workboats. So when we talk about the value of sailing to our national identity, the very boats that Bahamians use for, one, transportation, two, for work, became the very thing that they played in. So our vessels, our boats, served multiple purposes over time. So what was interesting when we were exploring during our leg of the race, because where we are today is in fact a relay race that multiple administrations, Madam Speaker, played a role in. And it was very important to the then Prime Minister Minnis that we advanced using this baton that was placed in our hand, as it is important to our present Prime Minister to go a step further. And so the matter was brought to Cabinet, and at that time, we made the collective decision that sailing ought to be the national sport of the Bahamas. What was required, and therefore a Cabinet conclusion to that effect, Madam Speaker, was presented. So, Madam Speaker, I'd like to read into the record a bit, Madam Speaker, of the consultation that went on that brought the baton handed over to the member for Agriculture, Marine Resources, and Local Government. Madam Speaker, one of the things that was required is that we got concurrence from all sides concerned. And so I brought articles where, Madam Speaker, the member for Exuma and of course the member for Cat Island, stated, so this is not a surprise, that the Prime Minister and the Minister with responsibility for marine resources have made this commitment on the record in the House to confirm what had been decided in Cabinet under our administration, because both the then Prime Minister Davis, who was leader of the opposition, and the then deputy leader of opposition, Chester Cooper, were on record as saying they are committed to making sure that sailing became the national sport. And former deputy leader, now deputy prime minister, was very strong in his statements then and has been true to his word in this regard. He said under an article entitled Miss Rowie Wins Ballaredge Regatta, carried in the Nassau Guardian, January 7, 2020, he indicated that I will second a bill in Parliament that states sailing is the national sport of the Bahamas. He was very much committed. We believe that if we were to proceed with something so significant, it was important to have the concurrence of the then opposition in making such a significant determination. It is fitting that we're doing this, that is, putting on the public record a decision made earlier and doing so in the House, which we did not do, Madam Speaker, ahead of the Exuma Regatta, which gives the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the Minister an opportunity to make what I believe will be a triumphant announcement. It was stated then at that time, Exuma, you are doing incredible things and your economy is advancing. The talent involved in regattas have not seen its best days yet. This is an industry of boat building, waiting on us to produce it. Secondly, each community boat can become a franchise. Madam Speaker, boat administrations at different times have made tremendous contributions, and I will lay, Madam Speaker, each of the articles I'm referring to. Madam Speaker, boat administrations have made significant contributions to the development of sailing in general, sloop sailing in particular. The Honorable V. Alfred Gray, Madam Speaker, wrote, and I will read into the record, a letter in response to my request of him to share his views on the way forward in terms of our attempt to make sailing a national sport. He wrote, I'm very pleased to congratulate you on your efforts to make sailing the national sport of the Bahamas. When I was minister, we attempted to finalize that, but we did not have the opportunity to do it before we lost government. I'm happy that you find it possible in your effort that I started, and I pray that you will get the full support of the Cabinet, the National Sports Council, and of course, sports enthusiasts everywhere. I certainly will be delighted to support you publicly, if necessary, on this noble effort. And I do wish the government well in its trust to make sailing the national sports of the Bahamas. God bless you as you continue to try as hard as you seem to be in your efforts to do what's in the best interest of the Bahamian people. Madam Speaker, we also spoke to the Honorable Algernon Allen, who also played a significant role, the Honorable Renwood Wells, who again took the baton from Minister Gray and continued, and I succeeded him in that portfolio. And we are pleased to stand with, V. Alfred Gray. V. Alfred Gray. And so we're pleased to now also stand with the present minister, Minister Clay Sweeting, as he's brought this very important resolution to the House of Assembly. Madam Speaker, having the concurrence of successive or multiple ministers is important, but it was not nearly as important, Madam Speaker, as getting the concurrence of the various sporting federations. So, Madam Speaker, a letter was sent to all of the sporting federations, and discussions were entered into with the Bahamas Olympic Association. I'd like to commend Rommel Fish-Knowles, as well as Deron Donaldson, both of whom we had discussions with, and correspondence. And I commend to the minister, if he has not already done so, that the Bahamas Olympic Association was in the process and is in the process of constructing a facility to house all of its members. So committed were they to this idea that they were prepared to put a motif in the front of their building, a replica of a sailing vessel, as a commitment. They saw that as a symbol so unifying of all sports, that because of the way in which sailing is intrinsic to our identity as a people. And I think it would be a powerful partnership between your ministry or your ministry and the Bahamas Olympic Association. Because certainly I should jump ahead to make the point I was making earlier about the structure of ministries, that I think it's important that sailing be resident in the Ministry of Sports. It is to eliminate the schizophrenia in our governance and the way in which we put certain departments in certain ministry. And integral to having it play, I mean, again, because to talk about a national sport, the sports minister ultimately should nurture that, while the minister for local government gives birth to that notion within your cabinet. My recommendation would be that the national sport sits in the Ministry of Sport. None of us like to lose money. So I think at that time, the Prime Minister then had made available, I believe it was maybe $1.4 million or so to our ministry. But certainly we thought it important enough that we should give consideration to putting it where it ought to be. And so the Bahamas Olympic Association would be an indispensable partner to any government that is involved in the business of growing the national sport. And so one of the things that we did was to consult the associations. 85, not less than 85% of all sporting federations did one of two things. They either supported enthusiastically or they offered a no objection to sailing becoming the national sport. In fact, cricket, if my memory serves me correctly, abstained on the matter and did not vote, as some had speculated that they were against it. And so, again, at that time it was 85%. It may very well be. It may very well. Again, the member for Fox Hill is indicating his full support for the cabinet decision, and so more than 85% at least of all sporting federations supported, and we got, and I believe it would be wonderful for the minister to get a hold of the correspondence or the notes written on some of those sheets that we circulated, to hear that some of the leaders of sports federations are sailing enthusiasts. They participate in regattas. They participate in other forms of sailing, because regattas is not the only, it is certainly the most dominant form of sailing in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But we have Bahamians who are competing on the international scene, winning international medals, getting scholarships to go to schools, competing in a variation of what is known as our regattas. And so again, as we commend all of our former ministers, we ought to also commend former Prime Minister Minnis, who in his wisdom supported in cabinet, and all of us voted and supported sailing becoming the national sport. And we should commend our present Prime Minister, who brought a resolution to the House to put that also on the public record. Madam Speaker, my final comments in this regard, as we support this resolution, is to point to, Madam Speaker, some of the economic opportunities that exist that I'm hopeful that this administration would take advantage of. It is, many young Bahamians have an interest in sailing, and whenever workshops were held, many Bahamians participated. It is not an inexpensive venture. And so I believe that developing multiple sailing academies would be important. There's already an academy in Exuma. There is an academy right here at the Nassau Yacht Club. And so we have a massive potential to produce academies throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and many Bahamians are interested in putting resources in that. The other thing is sail making is an area that also holds an economic opportunity, and the revival of the boat building industry holds an economic opportunity for us as well. There's also huge economic opportunities in creating replicas of sailboats, which was a huge part of our income in the past that was sold to tourists, that we provide as gifts at various events. There is an opportunity to revive that as a benefit to our economy. But the single largest contribution of sailing is the onshore activities that are built around the entire sailing industry. Regatta has been the lifeline for many communities, much like fishing. So the member for Long Island was particularly interested in weighing in on this issue because of his and his island's commitment to fishing in general, sailing in particular, both for recreational as well as for work. And Long Island is one of those communities that have produced, I mean, the likes of Stefan, who works for all sides. So Stefan is a nationalist, and as you know, he dominates sailing, and Stefan, no, sorry, please stay focused. Stay focused in the name of Jesus. Stay focused. There's a sweet spirit in here today. Let's go with it. And so Stefan, for example, and some of the names called by Minister Sweeting, is an example of Bahamian excellence in sailing, and from a family of sailors. It's really one of the unique sports where you could have children and 70-year-olds competing at the same time. And to the minister's point, it also involves both male and female. But there are economic opportunities in the onshore activities surrounding the regattas, and it is important that we continue to expand the number of regattas, but eliminate where possible the conflicts between multiple regattas being held at the same time. There is a need for greater subvention to regatta. However, there is a need, and I appeal to the corporate community, for us to build franchises where the franchise can build such name brand recognition that the various donors or entrepreneurs are willing to have their names associated with this vessel. That's one of the reasons why we miss Brother Eliezer Johnson. He was the quintessential marketer of sloop sailing. He was able to bring sponsors into the industry. And so was Brother Maxey. It was always interesting, the brand chosen, but Brother Maxey was one of those persons who was so animated in his discussion of regatta in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that he attracted an audience to regatta. And his father, he followed in his father's footstep. He followed in his father's footstep as one of the pioneers in sloop sailing in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So as we salute the Raleigh Grays and all of the luminaries, we certainly have to salute the Maxley family for the role 2 generations have played in regatta. And so again, we support the expansion of entrepreneurial activities that surround sailing in general, sloop sailing in particular in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And Madam Speaker, as I take my seat, let me say, Madam Speaker, this resolution gives the public an example that when we are minded to work together on things that are important to national development, we can. And I appeal to the governing side. Let us look for additional opportunities for us to engage each other in advance of coming in the House so that we are able to collaborate on things that can contribute to the national development of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, I am proud to have been given the opportunity by Prime Minister then Minnis to serve in this capacity, to meet sailors from throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, those in sloop sailing, those in all the variation of sailing throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and to experience the passion. Because, Madam Speaker, much like junkaneurs, one of the things that's true about sailors, and I believe the minister as a former commercial fisherman can attest to that, persons engage in this, even though the remuneration or the prizes we give are infinitely less than the investment that they put in. Sloop sailing and other forms of sailing, star sailors, those persons who are in that particular version of sailing, it's a very expensive proposition for some folks. But nevertheless, they enthusiastically, regatta after regatta, from A class to E class, you have persons who are making sacrifices to participate. And so, Madam Speaker, I believe that this is a good day for us to popularize the decision that has been made in terms of bringing this resolution to the House, confirming the conclusion that we had made while in administration, while in the chair, to have sailing in general as the national sport of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And I would not want to take my seat without commending Patricia Glinton Micolas and Nico Micolas, along with those persons already identified by the minister who played a role in creating the documentary. Patricia Micolas, we worked diligently with her in creating Masters of the Sea, which the minister shepherded the publication of. And she dedicated a tremendous amount of time and research, but could not do it without the input of all of the veteran sailors who gave input into the publication. So what we are seeing, while we talk about those that produce, those that edit, we have to talk about those people who had the reservoir of knowledge for decades, who deposited that to the producers and to the writers who did research, who talked with persons like the Reverend Macfie, who talked with Danny Strawn, who talked with Raleigh Gray descendants, those people who were influenced by him. So the research that was done by the producers of the documentary, by Guanima Press and those who published the publication recently released on sloop sailing, they ought to be commended. Our researchers have provided a body of information that can be used by universities now around the world to understand our history in sailing in general, sloop sailing in particular. For those that may be irritated by any aspect of whether or not their accomplishments have been properly documented, the truth is this is not an exhaustive work. The documentary is not exhaustive. The publication isn't. Because I'd like to see a book that documents all of the victors, all of those who won, first, second, third place, and so on, in all of the regattas. So you have a complete history. There are many dimensions of this not yet documented. The variation in the designs of the vessel over the years. There's so much more work that could be done. And so I think, Minister Sweeting, you and your team have a wonderful opportunity as you listen to the practitioners in the field and those who, all of the sailors, the people who sponsor them. As you listen to them, they will tell many stories that you have an opportunity to produce many more books, many more publications, and whatever you don't get around to, come 2026, we'll take care of it by making sure that we oversee it. And so with those few words, Madam Speaker, we support the resolution.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Chair recognizes the honourable member for Westbourne,
Madam
Bahamas.
Speaker, we're going to move for the question to be put, but as the member spoke and you talk about those persons who contributed, there be people like Steve McKinney who broadcasted alive with Sailing On, the Broadcasting Corporation of Bahamas. Interesting, very interesting stories. Madam Speaker, and I'd wish to ask the member from Marco City to kindly provide or lay on the table the records that you spoke in the documents, because we have an opportunity to create a treasure trove of information now that can form into the books that others will study down the years ahead of us. So I think it's imperative that we have that information. I think it's very important. Madam Speaker, we now move to the question be put.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas are known for their unique wooden vessels built of horse flesh and hard pine known as sloops, which have been used for decades throughout the islands of the Bahamas in cultural and sporting events known as regattas. Now therefore be it resolved that this House approves sailing as the national sport of the Bahamas. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The resolution is agreed. Further resolutions?
No further resolutions, Madam Speaker, but we have just a minute left on the agenda, and so we wish to ask for an extension beyond the 1 o'clock hour to complete the agenda.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, honourable members. It has been moved and seconded that the business of this House proceed beyond the 1 p.m. hour. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is agreed. The business of this House will now proceed beyond the 1 p.m. hour. We now revert back to the order of business. And as we move into member statements, honourable members, I would like to remind members in this honourable place to those who have not as yet to please reach out to the Deputy Prime Minister who has lost his brother over, I think, a few days ago, and give him your kind condolences. Now we'll move into member statements. Chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Mr. Speaker, I want to be brief and quick because I have a 1 o'clock appointment I'm running late for. Madam Speaker, I just want to bring out two important issues that face our Kalani constituency. One I would have mentioned to the Minister, and he's aware of it, but it's essential that my constituency know that I brought their point forward. Madam Speaker, in the West Bay area, we have a lot of curves, and it's sometimes very dangerous to vehicular drivers and even motorbike drivers in the Western New Providence. One of the challenges a lot of our subdivisions face, they cannot see around the curves, and they must erect mirrors so that they can see cars from either end for their safety. And what we're proposing, we realize that it's a main thoroughfare and you cannot put speed bumps, etc. We accept that. But what we're proposing is there are devices that are utilized in Ministry of Works. I think they're called road flappers, the little yellow strips in the road. We're proposing whether the Ministry of Works would look at it to introduce these road flappers at the various subdivisions where these mirrors are located at both ends. That would help to slow down the vehicle and allow the residents time to get out of their driveway quite safely. And the only other matter, Madam Speaker, we would have sent a communication to the ministry some time ago with renaming the Truckwell Garden Park, and we just want to follow up whether we can get some communication. We wanted to rename the park after a resident who was there from Truckwell Garden was first developed, and it was a unanimous decision. All the residents had agreed on this particular individual. So we just want to follow up on that. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Central Grand Bahama. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Fort Charlotte.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker, for your indulgence. The Honourable Member for Kalani had spoke to me about the flappers, and I just want to share with the public that the ministry recently received a sign-making machine and some other equipment such as cat eyes, which were long lead items, and I will inquire about the flappers to see how the safety or safe use of the road could be enhanced, as you've indicated in that area. Also, the ministry will take under advisement, especially during this year, the 50th anniversary year of our Commonwealth, to name parks, roads, public buildings in honor of distinguished patriots who have contributed to the nation building and to the country. And certainly that will be taken into consideration, and the necessary notices will be posted.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Central Grand Bahama.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would also like to extend my congratulations to my successor, the good Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, and Team Bahamas, on a job well done over the weekend. Madam Speaker, I would also like to extend get well wishes to one of my close friend and supporter, Mr. Theo Farkases, who is hospitalized and is in need of blood at the PMH. And over the last few weeks, I've seen many calls from the blood bank. Persons asking to donate blood. So I'm urging all Bahamians, across the land and bread, those who are hearing my voice, to do their best by going to the blood bank and donating blood, the gift of life. It's a very, I think, a good gesture at this time to support that initiative. I also want to extend, and it was on my list, to extend condolences to the member for Exuma on the passing of his brother, who I assume was like a father to him, father figure. So I want to say to him that I pray for God's peace and comfort to surround you and your family. I want to also congratulate the good member from Yamaklaw, who I noticed had a farmer's market in recent time. You're following a good example. And I think a lot more of us need to carry those initiatives, because it really empowers our constituents, and I would encourage more of us to follow suit, and I'm willing to help all those who want to take part. Pardon? And Senegal also. So yes, let us continue to do those things that empowers our constituents. And in conclusion, I would like to now segue into announcing that on this Saturday again, between the hours of 9 and 3 o'clock, the Central Grand Bahama World Famous Farmers Market will again be held in Grand Bahama from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And from 1 to 3, we'll be having the Easter egg hunt and children's funding. So on this Saturday, we're combining the two events from 9 to 3, Farmers Market, and from 1 to 3, the Children's Family Fun Day and Easter egg hunt. We're going to have a big crowd there. It's going to be a grand time. So once again, thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Angleston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sorry? Oh. Let Martha City know, man. Yes. Respect, much respect. Madam Speaker, I wanted to, first of all, also congratulate Team Bahamas in the track and field. I was not there. I think the member for Yamaklaw was with the swim team. He led the delegation, but I had the privilege and supreme honor to attend every day at the stadium. And I can tell you, Madam Speaker, Don't hold it against me, the videos. I observed I don't know what the word is to describe that thing in our athletes, where they pulled it out and were able to perform in ways in which did not seem possible in the early stages of a particular race. And they ended up at the finish line in a most spectacular way. And it speaks volumes about this thing that makes us who we are. It's just an incredible, wealthy thing that I think we need to tap into more holistically in everything that we do. The Bahamian people are just an incredible people. And when we see the negatives in our society, we have to really resist them because there is so much greatness in the Bahamian people. In that regard, I wanted to highlight a particular athlete. His name is Carlos Brown, and he was the silver medalist in the 200 meters and also in the 200-meter 4x4 relay. And he is from the great constituency of Engliston. And though many may not know that Carlos, a couple of years ago, faced an incredibly traumatic experience in his life in the loss of his father and the manner of the loss of his father. And the resilience, the purpose-driven commitment that he has undertaken as an athlete has just been such an incredible thing for this young person. I think he's about 17 now. He'd have been about 15 at the time. And he has good support. And it's amazing where it's a village who's supporting this young man. But we are proud of him in Engliston because he represents all that is how do you describe it? The overcomer in our people. And the innate talent and the understanding that you cannot take it for granted, that you have to harvest it. And he has done that. And I believe great things are in the works for Carlos. So I congratulate him on behalf of all the people of Engliston. We're so proud of him. And for the overall result, we talk about the medal increase, 29 or whatever it was. All I gotta say is to whoever sees themselves as our opponents, we come in!
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Yamacraw.
Speaker, the good member for Engliston has so much energy and tenacity, and she's such a good videographer. I just waited whilst I was in Curacao to see the videos put on by ZNSR News in Engliston to get the official coverage. But I wanted to say, Madam Speaker, that we had an awesome opportunity to represent this country. I led the delegation to Curacao, and I just want to thank the Honorable Minister, the member for Garden Hills, and for awarding me the opportunity to represent him as the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture abroad, and the Prime Minister by extension for the opportunity, because it was more than just athletes. They were ambassadors. They were well-behaved. They're still children who are given an opportunity to represent the country's flag and colors, and they were great ambassadors for the country from start to finish. Their enthusiasm, also supported by their parents. I want to thank them for their parents for the support they continue to show. And yes, I did show them my volleyball skills and the cowbells from start to finish, and it's the reason why, you know, I hear noise coming from the other groups that try to participate in Chalkadoo. Enough time, Madam Speaker, it's all in good. But we understand that support. We understand that support is necessary. The team highlighted that. I also want to commend also the government of the Bahamas for supporting the team in a way that no other country has done, and that is sending a charter for their team to be in attendance to and from those games. And the team expressed, those young people expressed their gratitude, not only wearing the Olympic colors, the Olympic uniforms. They felt as a team, they said, and they felt like they were ambassadors for the country because they had the national flag carrier and they had the uniform, and then, which was displayed when they came on the field. So I want to commend Team Bahamas track and swimming for their awesome track and field and swimming for their awesome representation of this great country. Madam Speaker, I want to also extend my gratitude to Yamakro for putting me in this position. It's an awesome position to represent them, and we do have a farmers market that, because of weather, I think it went out early that there was a possibility of cancellation. The farmers market is still on. Every other Saturday, we are having that market until we move to every Saturday on the Nassau East Park. And I want to invite all of my colleagues in Parliament to please come and support our artisans, our producers of crops that they grow in their backyard in many cases, and also other food stuff that come from it and drinks, such as juices and honeys and peppers. And it's 3 schools that were able to attend and got stores. They had live animals, and they also used that opportunity to sell their produce and to raise funds for schools. So support your school by supporting the farmers market. So the Yamakro Farmers Market will be on the Saturday, 9 to 3, and we're inviting everybody to come out. So thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Pinewood.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also will be brief. Madam Speaker, I too would like to join the chorus of all Bahamians in congratulating Team Bahamas, the track and field, and also the swim team for the tremendous effort and success that they had at the recent Carifta Games. It was good to see Bahamians as a whole coming out and enjoying the festivities and being there on Monday to so despite the weathers. You saw the umbrellas coming out, and we are a people who don't take rain well, but the Bahamian spirit in supporting our athletes. And so kudos to those team members, kudos to the Ministry of Youth and Sports and those other agencies. Finally, Madam Speaker, the Pinewood Easter Egg Hunt will be held this Saturday at the Isaiah Park. We were toying with whether to go on Easter Monday, but I didn't want that disconnect, seeing that Carifta was on.
Yes.
And so I invite the kids of the Pinewood constituency to come out and enjoy the festivities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Oh, welcome, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama.
Madam Speaker, I too want to lend my voice of support and congratulations to all of the athletes, and in particular those from East Grand Bahama and from Grand Bahama in particular. Madam Speaker, I want to also commend the organizers of this year's Coconut Festival.
And I get my invitation
and unfortunately, it was held on the it was held on the Easter Monday, which meant that unfortunately I was unable to attend the Carifta. But despite the weather, we had an excellent turnout, that all of the vendors made lots of money. They had a great deal of tourists that were bussed down to Pelican Point, and good music, and a good day of family fun. East Grand Bahama really is becoming known as the heritage festival capital of the Bahamas, and having the most, I believe, the most festivals in the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I do also wish to lend my support to Theo F&M Farquharson, who we really love Theo Farquharson. He has been a source of motivation and strength for many of us. And so we want to lend our voice of support to him. Also, Madam Speaker, to the Minister for Pinewood, the DRA is again a point of we wish for there are many, many houses in East Grand Bahama in particular that are still in need of assistance. The rainy season is coming, and we need your support to ensure that I'm getting calls just about every day from persons asking when is the assistance coming. So we would like to be able to give them a time, a date, as to when that assistance greatly needed would be coming. Also, we also be having our Easter egg, what we call an Easter egg neighborhood drive-by on this coming Saturday. We don't throw the eggs. We get out of the vehicle. We get out of the vehicle and deliver the eggs. But we don't throw them.
Drive-through.
So it's really drive-by. Boy, look where you all mind go. But we drive through the community. And we give out candies, we give out ice cream, and so on. And again, it's going to be this Saturday. We start at 1, and we will drive throughout the community for it as well. And finally, Madam Speaker, the Roberts sisters of High Rock. They have been a source of ministry and source of strength for not just the High Rock community, not just the East Grand Bahama community, but they have been a source of strength for the entire Grand Bahama community. They released their first album after many, many years of ministry. They released their album this Sunday, Easter Sunday. They released their first album. They had a grand concert. They also honored Ms. Velma Gibson as well, who is a part of their church. And I want to also publicly commend them and give them congratulations. And my colleague from Central also is saying that, is reminding me that we want to offer our thoughts and our prayers and our condolences to the family of Bishop Hewlin Roberts, who recently passed in Grand Bahama. And we want to say to his family that we are praying for them and our support is with them during this time of need. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for
Response to the Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama. I just want him to know that the cries of those from East Grand Bahama and also from South Abaco, that I personally met with the Financial Secretary, and those funds will be forthcoming in tranches and monthly tranches in this year's budget. So we even talk about next year to address those matters. So I know the INCs have visited both in the past month, so it's just a bureaucratic thing, but funds are in place in this year's budget, and so hopefully we'll address shortly.
The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for North Andrews and the Berry Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just want to say, send a condolence out to the Winders family in Great Albuquerque. We lost a pioneer of a guy there, Mr. Anthony Winder. I know most of you would know him from Great Albuquerque. He passed a few days ago, Mr. Winder. And I also want to send my prayers over to Mr. Stafford Johnson in North Andrews, who is presently in the hospital going through some medical conditions. I just also, on a lighter note, want to make mention this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. at the constituency office, we'll have our annual Easter egg extravaganza. And the following weekend in Great Albuquerque, Saturday at 11 to 2, we'll be having our Easter extravaganza. And I just also want to send a big shout out to the Minister for Sports and Team Bahamas for a well done job over this weekend. I wasn't present. I had a family medical I was dealing with in the United States, so therefore I wasn't present. But again, congrats to Team Bahamas. And also all those athletes
not only Camara Strong, but all athletes who participated in the constituency of North Andros and the Berry Islands, of course. They know Member of Parliament Nabi is very, very proud of them, and greater things are coming. We keep that a secret. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for South Beach.
Thank you for recognizing me. Madam Speaker, I want to go on record to say congratulations to Team Bahamas for its exploits during this past Carifta weekend, the aquatics team as well as the track and field team. I think truly we all in this place understand the power of sports. I visited the track every day this weekend, and I was truly impressed by not only the athletes, not only the organizers, but truly by what the power of sports could do for us as a country. We just felt so proud to be a Bahamian. Everybody had on national colors. Madam Speaker, two matters as relates to South Beach. Just west of the South Beach pools has become, I don't know what it is, become a dumping ground for our community. And I'm asking the people of New Providence, because I'm certain the people of South Beach don't drive into the pools to dump. Yeah. But I'm saying the Ecology Park, Tony Darling's Highway, has free dumping. Yeah. You can drive there every day. Take your trash, dump it there. You don't need to drive all the way into South Beach by the pools and dump. We've just went through a massive cleaning exercise down there. It was very expensive. The constituency don't allow me to do that every other month. No. That's right. Yeah. So I'm asking Bahamians of every walk of life here in New Providence to please refrain from dumping in the South Beach constituency. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I'm not understanding our people, but we believe, or we thought, we had a stray dog problem in South Beach. We don't have a stray dog problem in South Beach. We have a problem with residents of New Providence dumping their dogs in South Beach. And we're asking you, please. So, what we've decided to do...
Their dogs or just leave dogs?
Just leave their dogs.
Live dogs.
Just leave the live dogs out there. And then they drive back to wherever they're from. So what we've decided to do, Madam Speaker, is we've decided that we will install CCTV cameras out there so that we can capture license plates and report them to the authorities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes. Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Marathon.
Good afternoon. Certainly I want to join in with my colleagues in congratulating Team Bahamas on both sides. That's track and field and swimming. And I've had the opportunity to observe the races. I mean, we had a grand time. Grand time. And of course, I somehow have a more intimate relationship with the swim team persons. And I certainly would like to congratulate not only the coaches. My daughter is a swimmer, yes, Adrielle Pratt. She was not with this Carifta team because she didn't try for it. However, she was a part of this team. And what I like about swimming, and of all those coaches who were there at the Carifta, they all, even if you're not on or your kid is not on their team, they always encourage each child who's doing well, or even if you're not. And so that's the part I love about swimming. All the coaches encourage the kids. And the persons really don't recognize, persons like Georgette Albury, she's on the board for swimming, and also Melinda Moss. Those individuals do everything they can to help everyone's child to be prepared for swimming events, whether it's here or internationally. And Trevano McPhee, one of the head coaches, Mr. Bruno, and of course, Mr. Alan Murray, he's a former Olympian. That's my daughter's coach, and he was a part of this team, so I congratulate all of them on a stellar job. And of course, Celeste Gibson, from, I could remember 4 years old, she was always the top. So I can just see her going to Olympics and beyond. And of course, David Sang, they didn't mention him, the male, who would have dominated the pools. He got a lot of awards too. And certainly I would like to mention, during the Easter holiday, My team and I had an opportunity to go through the streets of Marathon. We gave out Easter baskets door to door, and we have about 2 trucks that's still on the road because of the weather. And of course, we break for Carifta. And so they will see that persons are going door to door and still redeeming your prize. If you see that there is a door hanger, that means we missed you or you missed us. And you can come at the constituency office. So until then, I'm happy for Team Bahamas. And certainly I look forward to my daughter being a part of that team that will be held next year in the Bahamas.
Chair recognizes the honourable member for Southern Shores.
Madam Speaker, again I want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Southern Shores for electing me as their member of parliament. And I also want to thank them for attending our Easter extravaganza, which is Saturday past, well attended. And so I truly want to thank them for that. But Madam Speaker, while my colleagues are congratulating our Carifta team for a stellar job well done, I do want to stand and congratulate one of my constituents. His name is Mr. Laurent Rowe. He is presently in Europe, attending the European Grand Prix archery tournament. He is doing a wonderful job. As a matter of fact, he is the #1 person who, in the English-speaking Caribbean, he's the #1. And he is really, I call him an unsung person because his accomplishment has not been forecast. And so, Laurent Rowe, yeah. So I just want to stand this honorable house and just commend him for a job well done. And I believe in short order, his accomplishment will be sound. Again, I want to thank you. Before I take my seat, I truly want to also send out a shout out to a very good friend of mine. He's like a father to me, Mr. Franklin Ferguson, who also celebrated his birthday on Sunday past. And again, I want to take this opportunity and thank my people in Southern Shores that great things are happening. And we will continue to work together to make sure that Southern Shores is the greatest constituency in the South. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Fort Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We witnessed Bahamian exceptionalism on the track and field as well as the pool. I want to also commend those who work behind the scenes. The Ministry of Works, the Director of Works, the Permanent Secretary, and in particular the Deputy Permanent Secretary were on duty throughout the weekend. Also, the contractor, with your leave, Madam Speaker, the contractor, Mr. Stephen Knowles, who's also a well-known sportsman, his company, the contractor on the stadium, monitored throughout the weekend the police force that provided a firefighting machine and staff throughout. The Minister of Health provided several doctors and medical facilities. All of these, and also the Water and Sewage Corporation provided pressurized, BPL provided and ensured the consistency and adequacy of power. I just want to say that as Minister, I'm exceedingly proud of the work that was done behind the stage to support the extraordinary work of our athletes. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Baines and Granstown.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And again, I am happy and proud to stand in this honorable house to represent the good people of Bain and Grandstand. I know we have exceeded our time with respect to member statements, but I just wanted to echo the sentiments of the choir with respect to the great job that Team Bahamas did, and also the member for Minister Mario Boleg and his team for the work that he has done. But I also want to highlight, he didn't mention it, my cousin, Mr. Otto Lang, for winning the 110-meter race. He's a gold medalist. He's also from Grand Bahama, Pelican Point. I want to say hello to my cousin Randall Lang, my Auntie Mary. How you doing, Auntie Mary? His grandson. In addition to that, Madam Speaker, I want to mention that the deadline for the new Little Miss Bain in Grantstown for registration is approaching. It's the 14th, and I'd like to encourage my constituents to please register. We have about 8 persons already. 8 persons, and we want to make certain that we get at least 10, 15 little young ladies to be a part of that particular event. Madam Speaker, yesterday was my granddaughter's birthday. I want to say happy birthday to my granddaughter, Niall Watson. She turned 7 yesterday. Congratulations to her dad and her mom, my oldest son, Benai, and my daughter-in-law, Nellie, Danelle Watson. On a more somber note, Madam Speaker, I hate to dampen the spirit, but Madam Speaker, in most recent times, we had a spate or spat of murders in the Bain and Grandstown constituency, and I wish to convey my condolences to the families. I also want to make a clarion call, Madam Speaker, to our young men, especially in my constituency, to put down the guns and find better means for which we can resolve our challenges and our issues, and make certain that we do the right thing, which is to take care and be our brother's keeper as opposed to annihilating our brothers from time to time. So it's a vexing situation, but I had an opportunity to meet with the Commissioner of Police, and he has encouraged me that he will beef up patrols, and also he will make certain that we install a number of CCTVs to try to prevent some of the murders that are occurring within our constituency. I want to Carlos Brown, Minister for Education, he's from the great C.R. Walker School in the constituency of Bain and Grantstown, absolutely. So I want to congratulate C.R. Walker again, and also Carlos Brown on his achievements. But happy Easter to all of you, and I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I know Easter is basically over, right, but happy Easter still. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for St. Anne's.
Madam Speaker, I was there at Crifta on Monday when we won the back-to-back 200-meter sprint races. I enjoyed the opening ceremony with my wife and the final day with my youngest son, Nathan. We did an exceptional job. I've circulated a recording. I'm pretty sure Minister Mitchell has already listened to it. We're neighbors. We're neighbors. But Madam Speaker, in my constituency, it was raised by South Beach dumping. The ecology park is open. I think they're even open on Sundays now, and they even have a bin available if you arrive after closing hours. One of the things I wanted to do for St. Anne's, and it might even benefit Yamacraw, and could even benefit South Beach, because unless you think that just telling the people that they need to carry it where it needs to go, they're going to do that, and that's going to be the end of it, you're not taking all necessary steps to get it done. But I wanted to have an area where the Ministry of Environment would put a few tips and pick them up either on a daily basis or every other day basis in the Eastern District of New Providence, which would include Yamacraw, would even include Lizzie. But I know how Bahamian people go, myself included. Lizzie may be too far if you're coming out of a Winton neighborhood, if you're coming out of a Yamacraw neighborhood. But we really need to identify these sites that are satellite locations for the ecological park dumping facility that residents can use, and they can be collected and maintained in a good way. In St. Anne's this morning, there was a resident whose dog was being attacked through their gate by 3 pit bulls that were roaming in the area. Residents have asked, why have we banned the importation of pit bulls but not banned the breeding of pit bulls here in the Bahamas? I know it's not an incident where every dog is a problem, but there are dog owners that continuously are not taking the proper precautions to remove to secure their vehicles. That's good luck if anybody's asking that moth. That's good luck. So we need to look at our legislation and potentially consider banning the breeding and ownership of pit bulls here in the Bahamas. Easter Sunday, there was a big bash on Rose Island. Poppy's Lounge, Foulid Factory, New Link Entertainment, Jimbo's Bar. Massive sail away to Rose Island. Persons might have been stranded. And yes, my point is they left a complete mess up there. If persons are holding commercial activities on Rose Island, it may be that they need, or any of the family islands, they may need to have a business license to do it there, and there has to be repercussions if they completely destroy the natural environment by leaving all of their waste behind. And in conclusion, Madam Speaker, I'm hoping that Garden Hills appreciates what I'm raising. We have a Minister of Youth, Sports, and Culture, and we have a minister who's maybe the minister of our national sport now. I think that now that it's a national sport, it should come back under the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture, because we have a minister that represents our sports in the country, and sailing is now our national sport. So that needs to get cleared up, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Foxhill. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I didn't want to violate any rules here, so obliged. I really wanted to start off because Lawson Gray, who the name may not be very familiar with people, but he worked at the Broadcasting Corporation, I think after I left. And so when I actually ran into him, it would have been as in my activist days. I don't think he was a yes, right. I have all these phases, you know. Yeah, so that was in those days. I don't think he was a supporter of the progressive cause. I don't think so. And I was telling the colleagues downstairs that at one point I thought, you know, decent and F&M was an oxymoron. But then, you know, you discover real people. And so you find out that, you know, people are what they are and they have their beliefs. But I just thought he was a very decent man. And I was shocked. And I've been having this kind of shock for a while now, where these people in their 60s are simply dying. People who should actually outlive me. And it must say something, because it's a series of women in Foxhill have died, all 62, 60-ish. Some have just retired, and you know, some of them have been sudden deaths. Just over the weekend, there were 3 families affected: the Curry family, Gladstone Roll, who was a good worker for Derek Davis, and then Cora Davis's brother. But all of these seem to be sudden deaths. And what the death of Lawson reminded me of is a period of my life, and this happens when you go to these memorials, of a really enjoyable time in life, when you form some friendships that you never imagined you would still, decades later, have. And so I remember Harris Gibson and Jeff Hepburn and Peter Campbell, who still works here, and Valentino Bain, who, of course, who's passed on as well. And so I just wanted to mention his name and to extend to his wife condolences on his passing. Don't know whether he has children as well, but he's a really decent man, and so Mark is passing. I'm glad you raised this issue of the dogs, because I don't think people appreciate what a beautiful island this is to walk on, or the Bahamas, because it's largely flat. And what is the most annoying problem is, even in these wealthy neighborhoods, and we have in Gleniston Gardens North in my constituency, people can't walk in the mornings because there are dogs charging out at them every place you go. And I keep trying to say to people, there is a law which says that if you have an open yard, the dog has to be tethered.
Yes,
it has to be tethered. You know, and nobody seems to sort of recognize what a nuisance this is. I mean, Bimini, for example, is a great place to run. Flat, but, you know, dogs charging out as you're going along. But certainly even along the Eastern Road where you say people, because of these high-priced homes, ought to know better, right? But, you know, dogs charging out at you. So I just want to join with you on that. I'm going to do something about just, and I think it must have to do with public education on this subject matter. Finally, congratulations to the Agriculture Minister, because when I went to the Yamacraw Farmers Market, and that whole weekend, I was the biggest spender that weekend. This way, everyone? I'm a VIP spender? Yeah, sorry, okay. There you go. There's hope for me yet. As Arthur Hanna would have said, I'm good for something, not good for nothing. But it just seems to me that the whole success in and around the idea of people farming again seems to be taking off. Lots of people raising chickens, I see. Eggs everywhere. And so I want to continue to encourage people that. Finally, P.J. Patterson, who is the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, and can really be credited with driving CARICOM in the direction of sports policy. He's now retired. He served 3 terms as Prime Minister of Jamaica, but on Sunday he celebrated his 88th birthday. So I just wanted to, I spoke to him yesterday, Prime Minister spoke to him yesterday to wish him best on everything. He is still active and around and is a good example of what life can be after public life. So I want to extend congratulations to him on reaching that milestone, and to express our concern because Portia Simpson Miller, who's also a Jamaican Prime Minister, is not well, had to be hospitalized, and so we wish her well and our friends in Jamaica on that issue. So thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and once again, condolences to the families in Fox Hill and to Lawson Gray's family. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Appointment of select committees. Instructions to select committee. Discharge of select committees. Notices for future meetings.
Madam Speaker, wish to renew all notices in the name of the government.
Thank you, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, we wish to renew all notices in the name of the opposition.
Thank you, honorable member. Adjournment.
Madam Speaker, just before moving the adjournment, I'd like to join my colleagues as well in celebrating the work and the team effort that we experienced, but I wanted to particularly congratulate the minister responsible for sports. He's been winning big, and he's been doing very well. We cannot take it lightly that the Crifter Games just recently was just the latest of his many accomplishments. We must remember that we have a baseball stadium now that was long pending, but now it's open, and the Honorable Minister's done an incredible job. Madam Speaker, it's not only his incredible determination, but his leadership, his strength of leadership, the fact that he's no nonsense, and the fact that he demands the greatness of our people, as we saw this past weekend. Congratulations, Minister. Outstanding job. I also would like for us to just pause for a moment to remember our brother, Bishop Neil Ellis, who is a friend to us all. He lost his father, one of the icons of Bimini, Clarence Ellis, one of the men who was a trailblazer, not only in the Christian growth and development of our country, but certainly as a movement, a pioneer of the movement of the Bahamian people. He's passed on, and the people of Bimini are saddened. Certainly his family is saddened. And we wish to offer our sincere condolences to Bishop Neil Ellis, his family, and the wonderful people of Bimini for the brother Clarence Ellis. Madam Speaker, I now move the House stands adjourned to Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 at 10 a.m.
Thank you, honorable member. Is there a seconder? Thank you, honorable member. It has been moved and seconded that the House, at its rising, do adjourn to Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 at 10 a.m. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Final adjournment.
Madam Speaker, I now move that the House stands adjourned to Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 at 10 a.m.
Thank you, honorable members. Is there a seconder? Second. Thank you, honorable members. It is moved and seconded that the House at its rising on Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 at 10 a.m. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The House now stands adjourned until Wednesday, April 19th, 2023.